Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting Wednesday night of Rip It Off the Card, the ultimate collectible show. It's a yay team for everybody. We're having a fantastic time here. Aaron's a very, very happy camper because his store finally got some customers last weekend. So tell us all about that, old son.
We've had, well, on Sunday we had no power again, which isn't fantastic, but the trains have not been running in Blackburn, which cuts down a lot of the foot traffic because no one wants to get the buses. So instead of going to the Grand Prix, we had customers come through the shop.
That is particularly groovy. And those customers didn't just come in for a bit of a scour around. They're actually in there buying stuff. Is that right?
Hoverboards, Tracy Islands, action figures, episode 1 stuff, you name it. Everything but Sci-Fi LPs.
Yeah, very, very good. So it was going off. And the irony being, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I left early that day to go to a Star Wars fan club meeting. And of course, once I left, all the customers watched me leave and go, now we're going to turn up and buy some stuff because that annoying dude isn't there, which is particularly groovy. So there you go. Now, you just mentioned the Grand Prix. Now, how's this for a gag, right? Now, in my travels in life, what I do is whenever I go to an event, I keep my eyes open to see who is going to be wearing a Star Wars T-shirt at the event. Right now, I've got examples going right back. I've seen people wear Star Wars shirts at the footy, at the cricket, even the Russian Grand Prix, believe it or not, when that used to be on. Also, all these events where people say, I'm off to a sporting event, a gigantic event with hundreds of thousands of throbbing nerds. I'm actually going to wear a Star Wars T-shirt. That's what I'm pulling out of the wardrobe. So I went to the Grand Prix on Friday last weekend. I'm wandering around, and I think amongst all these people, surely no one is going to be saying, oh, yes, I picked a Star Wars T-shirt out of my wardrobe. This is what I'm wearing today. And sure enough, I saw not one, but two dudes, yes, adult men wearing Star Wars T-shirts. And I thought, well, there you go. The defense rests, they are always out there. What can I say? What do you reckon about that?
That's interesting because in my life, I've always looked for people wearing Grand Prix T-shirts at Star Wars events. And do you know what? I've never seen one.
Really? Unbelievable. I think the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I didn't see it in real life, I saw it on a documentary. It was actually, believe it or not, it was a bodybuilding competition in some really obscure city in Africa, right? And there was a dude there wearing a Star Wars T-shirt. And I thought, what are the chances of that? Unbelievable.
Well, it's not going to be on this episode, but we have a very amazing place that a Jar Jar Binks cap has turned up, don't we? We're going to...
Yes, exactly right. We decided sort of not to show it. We could tell you about it, but we won't show it because it's a little bit wrong. You can explain.
I was going to put it at the end of part 3 of the episode 1 stuff next week or in a few weeks' time, maybe.
Good stuff. No problems at all. So we've got a whole lot of people joining us at the moment. William's happy. Look at that. Look at the Docky Who films with a 4K restoration in the UK. I'm sure somebody other than William is excited by that. Are you excited by that, dude?
My hat just about jumped off my head. Yes, I heard about that. That's pretty cool.
Very, very good. My hat is definitely staying on my head for that one. Gavin said, hello, fellow nerdy weirdos. Oh, geez, that's a bit Ocean. I don't mind the nerdy part, but the weirdos bit? Oh, geez, a bit Ocean.
I think he's talking to the other people watching, not us.
Yeah, exactly right. Rusky Babes has covered everybody. Hipperay, hello, collectible show with Aaron and knee and you and all the vile, and the vile stuff to get you in the poo. Yeah, right. There you go.
Very, very cool. All this nice stuff. He wants to be our official fact checker, I think.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, we've got a particularly groovy show tonight, fans, and hopefully you're going to stick around to the bitter end because we've got so much to cover off. It's absolutely awesome. Even the Vile has gone a bit of yippee. Yes, he's channeling his young Anakin Skywalker, which is particularly groovy. And I guess we need to kick things off. But believe it or not, we're not actually going to be starting with Star Wars. We're actually going to be starting with another Star franchise. But first things first, it's in the news section. Here we go. And I just realized something too, and I have noticed this. Michael Herbert, believe it or not, is from Bangkok. How's that? So he couldn't get out of the country quick enough, and he's gone off over to where's Bangkok, by the way? Where's that?
Thailand.
Hong Kong, isn't it? Hey?
Thailand.
He's in Thailand at the moment, watching us. So there you go. So instead of getting the local joy from all the population over there, he's decided to sit here and join us this evening. So how fantastic is that?
Thanks for being here, mate.
Absolutely, totally agree. So good to see you over there, Mr. Michael. Absolutely fantastic. All right, now we're going to be kicking stuff off. And as I said, we're not starting with Star Wars. We're starting with that other Star franchise. And I'll tell you what, if you're a Star Trek fan, and I know Colin is watching the show right now, get ready to just start licking the screen. What do we got, old son?
Well, Colin, get ready to sell your other leg, I think. But I think that there's been an expo this week that has revealed the line of Star Trek toys that are coming out over the next year. Most of them start from next quarter. These are 12-inch action figures. They're not made by Hot Toys, but gee, they are Hot Toy quality. And I think the thing that impressed me and Dags about this, there's no fat. They've released all the good figures. So if you're going to collect all of them, I looked at all these pictures and go, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one. What did you think, mate?
Yeah, there's it's outstanding. Now, there's so many pictures. We're not going to talk about every individual one unless there's something particular, right? So we are going to cycle through them. But so my point of view, just starting off with Commander Krug, the one on the right over here, you'd swear that was a photograph of Christopher Lloyd. I was really, really impressed. But as we discuss these, we're just going to cycle through the pictures, and we might double back if there are things that we need to talk about. But yeah, go for it, dude.
So a couple of weeks ago, we put up as the news that they're like reissuing some of the Playmates stuff, which is kind of a bit of a shrug your shoulders event because you can still get the original ones round. These ones are really impressive because I think Star Trek fans have probably been denied having this level of detail and accuracy in the 12-inch figure range. I mean, if you look at those ones, the detail on the costumes, that puts some cosplayers to shame. I don't know 100% if the Kirk face is the best one there, but I'll give it a pass just because of all the extras that come with it. As someone who, was into Star Trek and is into Star Trek, I was really impressed with sort of every one of these figures where each time I saw the reveal of the next one, I was like, okay. I mean, that's another one. Doesn't that just look like Leonard Nimoy, the one on the right there?
Yeah, what I was going to say about this one here is that if you've ever seen the Wrath of Khan uniforms up close, there's a lot of detail, like a lot, right? It's all buried in the bits and pieces. I mean, the fact that they got this part here correct, that part there, down here, all the bits here which represent the years of service, plus that piece there and that piece there, plus the belt, plus the what do you call it, the belt loops, which most costumers didn't even notice existed, and there'll be a thing on the back as well. I mean, that color, that is pretty spectacular, I got to say. I mean, considering it was from material from the 1930s that they found in Paramount, you look at this and you go, holy moly, that is very, very impressive.
Yes, I don't think we've got the pictures of them, but the Spock one even comes with the radiation gloves from Wrath of Khan as well. I do like how you've got the dress uniform and then you've got the other versions of the uniform that go with it too. I think the figures are pretty incredible, like across the board on all of them. Some of the likenesses are better than others, but I wouldn't say any of them were a bad likeness. And like you were saying, the level of detail and accuracy that goes into the costumes for something that's at this scale is above and beyond from what we've seen in Star Trek before.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever made, to the best of my knowledge, this jacket anywhere, right? You can't find it. It doesn't exist. And there's a lot of detail in this. In the production, for those who don't know, they had a special sewing machine. They did all the ribbing around the collars and the what do you call it, the cuffs, and they used it for all these jackets as well, all the way up here. And the fact they've been able to replicate it in these costumes for these figures, that is really impressive stuff. So a lot of fans are going to be, especially Star Trek, Wrath of Khan fans are going to be very, very excited among all the other things that we're showing you as well.
Well, Colin looks like he's having nerdgasms from his.
Oh, we haven't even started yet, dude. We've got more to come.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that. So yeah,
you wait. By the time we're finished, you're going to be looking like Captain Pike in the wheelchair with no limbs at all. Now, here's another fan favorite. This one is 7 of 9, and of course, this is another amazing likeness. I did say to Dags, I'm surprised they didn't go for the silver cat suit that she wore, but it's really nice to see her in a different version of her, most famous outfits. And the thing I was really impressed about this range, they haven't, just catered for one era of the show. They have gone for fan favorites from every single era. So you can see there we've got a couple of different versions of Geordie LaForge, and you've got Captain Picard in his dress uniform, and the later, I think it was from season 5 onwards, did they wear the sort of overcoat on top of the grey?
Yeah, because it appeared, I think, in First Contact. What I found interesting in this, and I thought, why are there two Geordies? And it might be hard to see, but this one says screen color. That one there says set color. Because as you know, in real life, the color of something looks different on film. They made two different colors. I mean, how nuts is that? I mean, why would you do that? I mean, you don't really need the set color version, but the fact that they've gone to that trouble is like, that's just bizarre. So,
I know it is nice that you can choose, but it is one of those things that maybe you don't even need the choice. I
no.
do hope that they both come in the same package and you don't have to buy two different figures. So here again we have some different figures. Again, the likeness on the Benjamin Sisko there is absolutely fantastic. I think it does show with some of these pictures, though, the professional ones that are on the black background and then the ones taken in the cabinets of the same photos. Obviously, the professional ones know how to light it to get the best look out of the figures. And then you've got Riker there and Tuvok and a little time. You can only see sort of a preview of Janeway.
Ange said, was that Q in the background? That is correct. He was there, which is that Q just back there from effectively
Q in the Judge's robes. Yeah, I couldn't find couldn't find a picture of that one, but he has been made.
Thomas has made a point up here early saying they look really good quality. They do look spectacular. And I've got to say, I think there's going to be a lot of people going completely nuts over these. And I think the fact that the likenesses are so impressive and the material looks really, really good, it's hard not to sort of be turned away. And the thing is, there's such a big variety. It's almost insane.
Well, if you look at this one, I never ever thought at 12-inch scale you would be seeing Captain Pike in his like futuristic wheelchair, and you've got the Kirk there and McCoy in the uniforms from that episode. So being episode specific is really good for Star Trek. I mean, maybe it isn't amazing for a general audience that won't pick up the episode, but let's face it, the people who are going to buy these are the long-term fans that have favorite episodes. I mean, getting that's a Telosian, isn't it, from the Cage or the Menagerie, and you've got the Christopher Pike there before he sort of is all damaged and mutated up. With even they've got the Spock there from the Cage, which was the pilot episode. So his makeup is slightly different with slightly different eyebrows. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think, if I was going to take a stab, I'd say whoever's created all these has been a real fan. Like they've gone to the nth detail. They could have easily have just used the Spock head from earlier on, just changed the clothes, but no, they've actually redesigned the Spock look. They've really gone to the nth detail. It's like it'd be almost like hard pressed to pick the fault. So, sorry, did I cut you off?
No. I was going to say the one thing about these is they will probably be the prototypes where twice as much time has been spent on doing the paint jobs on the faces and stuff. And when they go into production, often, that little caveat they have, this might not look exactly like the finished product. The finished product sometimes doesn't look as good as the prototype. So they've even done Discovery figures with Burnham there. And I've forgotten the Saru, that's right. So, and again, when you look at the level of detail in the uniforms and the accessories they come with, they're doing a really amazing job across the board. So we haven't had any really amazing Star Trek news for a while, and I think this one sort of knocks it out of the ballpark.
It's funny, you look at this picture down here, and if you looked at it very quickly, just glimpse, you'd swear it was a production photo.
Yes. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. This is, of course, Picard as Locutus of Borg. I really hope that they give that Borg background alcove as part of the figure, or that's part of the box, because often when they do that, that really sets off the figure amazingly. But they've done Borg before, and I really think that looks like a really sturdy, great version of the Borg. So definitely the best I've seen at that scale.
Yeah, very, very groovy.
And then you've even got on the right there, you've got stuff from the original motion picture, and there can't be many things being produced from that anymore. I mean, there was those two represent, now they've doubled the amount of merchandise from that movie almost, because it wasn't a success or as successful with the merchandise as they hoped it would be. And you see that and you go, look, that's fantastic. If you were a Star Trek collector and liked stuff from all the different eras of the show and the movies, you could do a couple of really great bookshelves or glass cabinets out with those and nothing else, and it'd be a fantastic display.
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of things here. So it's the timing is amazing because motion picture, the director's cut on is just come out on Blu-ray, 4K, and all that sort of bizarre. So everybody's really wrapped about that. If you look at the Pike outfit here, this is pretty much you could almost argue from Strange New Worlds. All the sewing, they haven't just gone for one sheet of material. They've really gone to the nth degree of cutting all the patterns and all the rest. I don't know who gets the job of doing that, but geez, I tell you what, it's damn impressive. And just getting back to the Kirkhead, I don't know if it's the same Kirkhead as we saw in the Wrath of Khan version, but if they've resculpted his head between the two movies, that's impressive because he does look really, really good there, as does Spock. So, yeah, what can I say? Very, very impressive stuff.
So Mark's asked what company have done these figures. It's a company called Exo6, which I had never actually heard of before. So it's either something that I haven't seen locally or haven't got anything from, or it's a new company that has just started up with the Star Trek franchise. So this one even comes with an accessory. I don't know if we've got pictures of it.
Yeah, it's the next picture. Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec.
Cool. So this, of course, is Captain Archer. You've got an admirer at the back. I don't know if he's sitting or taking photos there, but
anyway. So the vial he's spinning him out. He's spinning the vial into the Nexus because we all want to get to the Nexus, right? And scared to what the hidden price would be. There's two things before I go into the Archer edition. There was one photograph we couldn't include. If there's a fault with these figures, let's assume that they stand up by themselves. But when they don't stand up by themselves, they've actually got a stand that runs behind them, but the clamps actually are in between the legs. And there was actually a photograph, and I refused to show it, with the 7 and 9 figure, and they've done that because she's wearing the pink skin-tight outfit, and they've got the clamps coming from underneath, and it looks really, really inappropriate. So I don't know why they just didn't go for a thing that went around the waist, right? But it looks terrible. And in this picture, you can kind of get away with it because he's got the black zipper and the black parts there. But it's not well thought out. And I think if you're going to use that on a female figure, it's going to cause a lot of inappropriate comments. So I thought, guys, you've screwed the pooch on that one. And speaking of pooches, if you want an accessory for Jonathan Archer, you got his pooch. Good old Porthos. How gross is this?
Even that is the level of detail you just don't expect with a lot of different toy companies. I was really impressed with that. So I think that's one of those accessories that's almost as cool as the actual figure.
Yeah, that is grouse. And if you're a dog fan, you'll absolutely love it as well. Yeah.
Now, this is the one which I would never have thought this was a favorite figure, but maybe impresses me the most just because the level of accuracy and detail they've gone into putting Quark's jacket together there. There aren't many toy companies that are going to go and do that to get screen accurate because, of course, they can always go with something. He wore many costumes. They could go something which I'm sure would have been easier than that one to do. So that's a standout figure just from the level of detail and workmanship that goes into it. I can't think of many action figures that have such colourful clothing. Maybe the Sixth Doctor from Doctor Who would rival that, but not many.
No, I tend to agree with you. Everybody's hanging out for what the prices will be.
Well, generally, the prices were between about $2.99 US and $3.99 US, which usually means about $3.99 to $600 Australian once you've done the import. Usually with deluxe hot toys and things like that, the prices are getting up there now to about $3.99, $4.99 for a standard figure. So for a deluxe high-end 12-inch figure, they're comparable. They haven't got the Hot Toys name, which usually means they don't get sold as much and they aren't, held in as high regard. But I think these are absolutely fantastic. So if you're a Star Trek fan and you have a favorite figure, I would try and find them and pre-order them because I can imagine these selling out.
So with a price tag like that, there's only one response, right? And that is, of course, oh my. and just to show that, we're going through Star Trek figures. They're absolutely outstanding. Everybody loves them. Surely with the show as in our show, can't be that high quality. Well, it's not because we've had to bring it right down talking about friggin' Dr. Bloody Who.
Well, there's the highs and there's the lows. I'm impressed. I'm impressed you used Doctor Who instead of Docky Who. I mean, you've dropped.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, you're right. I need to do a rewind and just show bloody Docky Who, mate. Oh, crikey, look at this.
Well, it's excited Greg King. So
Greg is probably saying about time we got a real franchise going here instead of this bloody Star Trek shit. It's like, Mark's into it as well. So anyway, what's going on, man? What's so exciting about this particular screen?
Last year we had the leak of the figures for the year. This year, it's happened again where there's been the leak of the figures that are coming out. It doesn't really tell you what they are, but it gives you an idea of the era, so what they could be. And you've got a 3-pack with the 8th Doctor, which is probably going to be Big Finish radio stuff, because the character options don't have the rights for any of the other figures from the Doctor Who movie that the 8th Doctor was in, unless they've managed to negotiate them. That would be pretty cool. You've got a 10th Doctor pack. Again, we don't know what's going to be in that. There's two Dalek packs, which will probably be the History of the Daleks packs. A 3-pack with the 9th Doctor, a 3-pack with the 13th Doctor, which will probably come out for the Sea Devil episode, I would suppose, and maybe we'll get a Sea Devil, or maybe it'll just be Dan and Yaz. Who knows? We've mentioned there's 2 Dalek packs, a Doctor Who Dalek and Davros. I would presume that might be Tom Baker, Dalek and Davros, which would be pretty cool. And the First Doctor and Electronic TARDIS. Now, we had a First Doctor this year, but it didn't have an electronic TARDIS. So they're the speculations and the presumed leak for what's coming out this year. So there's some cool stuff there. I actually preferred last year's with the mainly classic Doctor Who figures, but there you go. You can't please all the Doctor Who fans all the time.
I love it when you said there's some cool stuff there, and I'm going, mate, whatever. Nah, it's all good. Get a bit of Docky Who into your kids. We can't have all cool stuff all the time with this show. Absolutely fantastic.
So just for the Doctor Who fans that are here, do you think we should do a Make Dags Watch the Easter special and do a DNA reviews on it in a week's time?
Yeah. Oh, is it a week? Is it? Oh, I've got a week between now to run from here to Brazil or something. So there you go. Where were we? Here come the season. Was it? No, the $2 Docky. I like that one. In the $2 bin. 13th Doctor, yeah, bargain bin, yeah, Sea Devil is released, yeah, exactly right. Oh, very, very cool. Look, everybody's loving it. They go, yeah, let's just do that to me. Yeah, exactly right. Very, very good. All right, now it's time for us to move on to something particularly groovy, and Docky Who is definitely not it. Let's get into what we've just talked about. Awesome stuff with Star Trek, crappy stuff with Doctor Who. We can only go worse than that. And, of course, it's time for this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
Love it. What are we talking about tonight, Mr. Aaron?
This probably is the most useless pop that we have ever done. Now, this one is based on a beloved franchise. It's based on the Brady Bunch. Now, the Brady Bunch is cool, and a lot of people collect it. There isn't a lot of merchandise from the Brady Bunch. Now, you probably can't understand what you're looking at there. That's Jan Brady on the telephone. Now, you may remember there was a famous storyline where Jan Brady invented a boyfriend, George Glass. And George Glass was, of course, imaginary. Now, Pop, the geniuses at Pop, have decided to release a 2-pack, including George Glass, and he is an imaginary Pop. Now, they have released clear Pops before, and, so you've got a cloaked predator or an invisible man or something like that. But this is, you can see, sold as a 2-pack, and you've got Jan Brady, and you've got an empty holder on the other side, and they are charging the same as a 2-pack for it.
Yeah, that's pretty disgraceful, isn't it? And as it turned out, I haven't got the photograph here, but you've actually got one in the store, which I saw on Saturday, and it's like the ultimate marketing ripoff. And people would have said, "Oh, that is grouse," and like the people who put this thing together would have said, "That's awesome. The fans are going to love it." And some of the fans probably do, not realizing they're actually getting duped into buying something that actually isn't there at all. Unbelievable.
Yes. Well, it's one of those things where, now they can sell an empty box with Wonder Woman's invisible jet and an empty box with, I guess, micro-sized Ant-Man in or something like that, and just call them, limited edition, special edition, and they sell an empty box and people think it's cool and trendy, but they're really getting duped. So that's a non-existent Pop of the Week.
Yeah, exactly. Even Jeffro, and he's a big bit of a Pop fan, so you can't believe that they've done that. So you do wonder, don't you? We actually made some jokes, and as you said, you could easily do it like a Predator who's cloaked, and a Wonder Woman her jet is cloaked, and the Invisible Man is cloaked, and all these characters you can't physically see, and they just produce an empty box, and people go, "That's awesome," and then they pay the full retail price for it, and it's like, that, where's it going? What's the deal? So
can you just imagine some guy that goes, "I've got a Focus. I collect the invisible Pops," and he has a whole room full of empty boxes or something like that. I just I do think it's funny, but I also wouldn't pay money for the joke, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I agree with Thomas. Yeah, I mean, you can't. There will be some people go, "Oh, that is fantastic! I absolutely love that episode, love that sequence, whatever else. I've got to have that," and not realizing they're actually wasting money on an empty box. If you took her out of the packet, funny enough, and threw the box away, suddenly there's no second character. There's no second character, as it were. So you have to leave it in the box, otherwise the joke is lost. So,
well, can you just sell nothing in an auction and say it's a loose George Glass?
Yeah, exactly right. You are right, Ange. The Force Pop will be the next one. Yes, it's the Force, and there's nothing there. I think they did it as an action figure and it was done as a joke, but to do it properly and actually pay money for it is just crazy.
The crazy thing, I was looking into this because, like you said, we did get one come through into the shop, and that's what alerted me to its existence. And I was looking at the prices of them on eBay, and the prices range wildly. But in sold items, they go between about $29, but some people were bidding them up to over $100. Which is just crazy for what it is, but there you go.
So the timing is interesting because I'm sure it was last week, Carol, who's watching this show, was making a mention about whether they should release Funko Pops for racing car drivers, right? Yeah. And she was hoping that they would do that. And as it turned out today, they have. They just released a couple straight away. And of course, if Funko go down the path of doing sports celebrities, I mean, that's a gigantic open-ended sort of like market that they could tap into. The issue that I would have is that does it actually cheapen the celebrity status of a person? So if you get somebody who, like, I don't want to use names, but the fact that everybody's sort of been cheapened down to is like using as a pop form, I don't necessarily, it makes them cute, but doesn't make it collectible. I really don't think it does. But anyway, they're coming out now, whether you like it or not. So keep your eyes open, kids, depending on what it is you like. But Formula One racing car drivers are currently on the way.
Have they done any car-related stuff before? Because I could imagine, the whole Ford and Holden thing where you've got all the red and all the blue ones, and Ford fans only buy one style. Like
only the cars. The cars themselves have all been produced, and you can buy millions of replicas of racing cars from all sorts of eras. But actual physical drivers, there may be the odd statue here and there, whatever. But as a Funko Pop, no, that's relatively new. So probably because they're real people. So anyway, watch this space, I guess. So there you go. Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah, you are right, Gavin. Yeah, bring on the pop of Owen and Brewer after they've been marshmallowed. Yeah, that would be kind of funny, eh? So there you go. All right, now we need to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff done. It's time for a little bit of the old Greggy King. All right, so what are we talking about tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, this was one that we had sent into us that maybe we should investigate. And I thought, yep, I would. This is for Angelo actually sent me a message going, hey, check this out. This is obviously an Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horror. And it's only $11. When I've seen these replicas of them, they are about the size of a pot plant, go for over $100. So I thought that was a good price. Now, the pro is it's a good price and it looks great. The negative is, guess which company is selling it, Dags?
One of your favorite companies?
AliExpress. So of course I couldn't resist because we have a bit of a backwards and forwards going with them at the moment. So I've already got like Maltese Falcons and Hobbit holes, and now I've got an Audrey 2 coming. Like, who knows what I'll get? I'm sure I'll get like a packet of seeds or something like that. But yep. So at $11, I was like, that's not going to break the bank, and we can check that out and see what's coming now. I think we've got quite a few things. Nothing new has rocked up this week, but the Soul Greg King has preempted being officially asked to do an investigation on AliExpress, and he actually cruised the internet and sent these reviews in. And I can tell you there are not many popular reviews. Now, all the ones there are basically saying it's a scam. You will not get what you want or what you order. It's basically the one I've highlighted there is the best. It's a scam. You will not receive the what does it say?
You want me to read it?
Usable product. Yeah, sure, if you could.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from Punch Drummer. It is a scam. You will not receive a usable product. You think? I received an old locket, probably from a garage sale, with a mirror inside. If you feel you must buy, use PayPal. I received full credit within a day of reporting the scam. I included pictures. You have been warned. So there you go. What do you reckon?
So we're not the only ones. Greg King isn't the only one like trumpeting these things to help warn people, buyers everywhere about some of these companies. But
so what would be funny? Hang on, I'm just going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ordered the Maltese Falcon and you got the Chinese Dragon, right? Or you got the chain thing from whatever. Wouldn't it be funny if you got 15 people who ordered the same item and yet they all got different items arriving? So what did you get? Oh, I got a necklace. Oh, what did you get? Oh, I got this like Chinese dragon. Oh, what did you get? I got this. They're not even sending the same items out. So when people complain, they have to look up and go, what did we send the dude? Oh, we sent them this. Okay, well, you've got this lucky charm bracelet. You should be happy. Oh, we sent a Chinese dragon to this guy. You got a lucky Chinese dragon. You should be happy.
I have to point out, it's not from AliExpress, but it was from our previous. What we have is stupid white buyer ideas of what we're going to receive. When we order something that seems too good to be true, don't expect to get that item. This is for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. One of the other buyers that we bought some stuff from and got something totally different basically got upset that I was saying that we didn't get what we ordered, and they were basically saying, you're lucky that you got anything at all because the price you paid was so cheap. You shouldn't expect a Stargate, and the locket with stars on is a suitable it's a suitable item to replace the Stargate. But there you go.
Yep, totally agree. And Rascal Babe said, yeah, order a Dalek and you'll get watercress. Exactly right. All right, so the ongoing saga with the Maltese Falcon, which of course was not a Maltese Falcon at all, and your Hobbit village, which has still not arrived. There's ongoing correspondence, and we're still going with it.
There is. Against my better judgment, I sent them extra money to send replacements for my items. Hey, Aaron, rest mind. The items are on their way and will be with you in new home. Your friends will love to see them and hold them. No need for internet investigation to pursue this case. All the best, Ronnie. So that was about a week ago, just after I had said we were going to buy them. But then because Greg sent me some of these links, I did send him this reply.
Well, I'm going to say good old Ronnie sounds like a bit of a cool dude, but maybe not.
Dear Ronnie, I am glad we're on first name basis. Out of all the correspondence we have had with these companies, he is the first person ever to call me Aaron. It's usually, hey, friend, or something like that. Hey, chief, or hey, boss. I'm very glad we're on first name basis. I look forward to my delivery. I'm also ordering, and this was the name they used for Ordery 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, Piranha Decoration Without Pot Movie Prop Horror Halloween Unique Flower Accessory, which is fantastic. I hope this arrives swiftly and is the correct item. The Soul Greg King has started primary investigations and has found some disturbing online feedback that says you often send the incorrect items and that your operation is a scam. I hope the reviews are wrong. All the best, Aaron. Now, I only sent that today, so hopefully I get a reply to that one next week and see what they say.
Piranha Decoration Without Pot, Movie Props Horror Halloween Unique Flower Accessory. Oh, geez. I can't imagine you make a song about that, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes, there's something about the Piranha Decoration Without Pot Movie Prop Horror Halloween Unique Flower Accessory becoming a dentist.
Yeah, exactly right. Yes, it is definitely Yoda speak. I love that one. So how good is that? So yes, so that's where we are currently at the moment, kids. It is all particularly groovy.
So these are the things that are still in the post and should be arriving for us to review. You've got the Maltese Falcon. You've got the Hobbit terrarium looking display. You've got a couple of light up horror displays, an Alien and a Michael Myers one. We've got the packets of metallic Star Wars cards, and now we've got the Ordery 2. So we've got some awesome stuff coming. By the way, Dags, you saw for first time in person the soft toys we got. What did you think of those?
I'll tell you what, the Luck Dragon is horrendous. I've seen it in real life, and it looks like it's the Unlucky Dragon. It's been run over by a couple of parked cars. It is absolutely shocking. And I've got to say, Mark has mentioned here about the fact that the guys must be in PTSD from all the correspondence. When they see an email coming from you, and they go, "Oh no, it's the soul Greg King. He's back." Unbelievable. But yes, it is not a pretty sight. And yeah, if you do look at the Falcon or the Luck Dragon thing, it looks nothing like the one from the movie. Like you've actually got one on the same shelf, and it's like it could be anything they've just sent you.
Yes.
It just looks horrendous. So,
It
but
it
here we
looks
go.
like
Look at this.
something-
Hang on, I'm just going to cut you off right in the middle of all this googling. Rusky Babes has sent through a fun factoid that no one gives a shit about. Oh my god, dude! He's sitting there typing this stuff out, going, "Oh my god, this is so cool! I've just got to send it out, dude." We're not talking about Maltese Falcons from the movie. We're talking about what happens when you order a Maltese Falcon and you end up with a Maltese Dragon. So there you go.
Well, the Maltese Dragon wasn't a luck dragon either, was it?
No, I love it. Yeah, the Roadkill Dragon, absolutely fantastic. So there you go. And of course, we've got to show the final shot.
Yes, so there's nothing new to add this week, but we know some kids out there like to play Where's Wally and find everything. So there's all the stuff that's arrived over the past 18 months for Greg King's massive garage sale. There's some cool items in there now. Not.
I like it. I'm missing the point. Okay, what point am I missing, Rusky Babes? The fact that you were talking about the actual Maltese Falcon from the prop, or we're talking about a product that did not turn up to Aaron's store when he ordered it from this company in overseas. So, yes, I don't think I'm missing the point of that. But anyway, I love. Hang on, sorry. I love your fun factoids. Keep on coming through. I'm only stirring you up, old son. So yes, sorry, dude. Cut you off.
I was just saying it's still a good fun factoid. I like the factoids too.
Yeah. And I get the fact that in the movie the Maltese Falcon they get is actually fake. I get that, but it could have been if it had been the shape of a dragon, Aaron wouldn't be complaining right now. But unfortunately, it was. So there you go. Oh, here we go. When's the Greg King book coming out? Where's the bargain? Oh, I love it.
It's like once a year when you used to have the Burke's Backyard book come out at the end of the season. We should have the Greg King come out to sort of capture that end of the collectible market, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, anyway, keeping with the thing of the theme of really good quality products and good quality, something that's grouse where the follow-up isn't necessarily so grouse. So you had the grouse sequence of Greg King's cheaper things. It's now time to dip the toe in the water, go down a few gutter levels because it's now time for the good old Lord Vile's Vile File.
So this week, I think we've got another cool Vile File, which is come from the scarlet letters in his mailbag again. Dear Lord Vile, master of the Vile Video Vault, I loved your guide to B-grade movie monsters. I had a request. Can you give us a list of the vilest movie sequels, the ones that really shouldn't have been made? Your devoted Vile acolyte, Colin Andrews. So I think Colin's sent in one before, so he is a dedicated Vile acolyte. I don't know if we've got many of them, but it seems there's more Vile acolytes than Dags and Aaron acolytes, that's for sure.
Yeah, that kind of scares me a little bit. There are people out there sitting there worshipping in the shrine of the Vile, going, "I am your acolyte. I'm not worthy. I'm not vile enough." Just that won't improve my vileness.
Just a quick aside, I had to explain who the Vile was to someone in the shop before and the difference between Lord Vile and Darth Vile. And for watchers, Darth Vile is like a blue version of Darth Maul, where Lord Vile is his vile creator and master, who is a bit like Sidious pulling the strings.
See, I would class you as like a low-level acolyte, where I'm a bit more of a higher-up acolyte. And the reason is because I know the Vile's real Sith name. So there you go. And it is not Darth Vile. So
and you're an arse licker as well.
Yeah. It tastes so good. All right, let's move on to some Vile sequels, shall we?
So yeah, the Vile has come down from his mountain and he has shared with us what he considers the vilest sequels of them all. And there's a crop of them, and because there's a crop, we've gone to Rotten Tomatoes to get them certified vile. So when you have a movie on Rotten Tomatoes, if it's fresh, you have a tomato, and that's usually a good thing, but you do not want to be certified vile by the Vile.
Fantastic. Even the Vile himself is suggesting Greg King's investigations. We will get you wherever you hide. Oh, okay. Well, I like the sound of that. That sounds pretty really grippy. Good stuff. All right. So Vile sequels, and I'm sure some people can think of a shitload, even without having to blink their eyes. There's a couple of fantastic examples there, but let's move on with it. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. So I think everyone would agree that Superman the movie and Superman 2 are two of the greatest comic book heroes movies of all time. There have been better made since, but there is a warm place in my heart and the Vile's heart for both of them. After we get past Superman 2, though, things go, a bit downhill. Now, I can remember, and the Vile agrees with me, that when I went and Superman 3, I did not want to be watching a movie about this guy called Richard Pryor, who seemed to be doing slapstick comedy and got in the way of all the super action. And the Vile has nominated Superman 3, but it gets worse. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, when, it's the movie that makes Superman 3 look good. And he gave a special nomination for Supergirl because, not having Superman in it, doing a story about witchcraft in a comic book movie that really is tenuous to the whole superpowers plot is not the way to go. What do you think of the pros and cons of the super franchise?
It's so sad that they started off so well, and I agree with you. Superman 3 was complete rubbish, but when they got the Quest for Peace, which was only on TV just the other night, it was Canon Group took over. They slashed the budget massively, and it was one of the only times I went to a cinema, and I was actually embarrassed to watch the film. And I remember on the news they had the big world premiere over in Mann's Chinese Theatre or wherever. And Christopher Reeve and all those guys all went. I can imagine when they were walking out thinking, oh, my God, that is just horrendous. If I'm Superman the movie, right, the benchmark, even today, of Superman movies, The Quest for Peace, absolute garbage. It was so sad.
I am sure that Gene Hackman's agent got fired over that one. You can't believe he came back for that.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And he had his sonny Lenny Luthor and all that. It was there's hardly any redeeming features about it whatsoever. It was really sad.
Richard was that Richard Cryer who played that? Or
no, he was only in the third movie. I don't know who was in the fourth. No,
the
guy who plays in 2.5 Men, Cryer, John Cryer, I think it is.
John Cryer. Otis, so much better. Otis and Tessmacher all the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Quest for Peace is just horrendous, and I'll tell you what, it just gives me makes me feel dirty even just talking about it. So there you go. But
that's what the Vile File is all about.
I like it when I feel dirty. So there you go. Very, very cool. Now this one I didn't see, but I did hear about it, and the uproar about it afterwards. It was like, oh my God, what have they done to this franchise?
Highlander, when it came out, was genuinely an amazing original movie. There wasn't much like it before. Directed by Australian director Russell Malachi.
It's Mulcahy.
Mulcahy. There you go. I've been saying it wrong my whole life. But
it's the same name as you have from MASH, the priest.
Hawkeye.
Father Mulcahy. Yeah.
Okay. And it all went. The wheels fell off and it all went downhill from there. Highlander 2 was such an unsuccessful movie. There are more cuts floating around of that than there are of the Dune movie. I know there's cuts of that with alternate songs, alternate endings, alternate scenes where two fights have been edited down into one. For the massive Highlander fans, going and seeing Highlander 2, The Quickening, was a huge, huge letdown. And again, getting Sean Connery back would have been a bit of a coup for him to come back to that. Like, I guess he did Zardoz, so he was used to that kind of level of sci-fi goodness. But do you know what? Did they stop at Highlander 2? No. Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, I think it's called, which I saw at the cinema, really hoping that it would be get back on track. The interesting thing with the Highlander movies, each one seems to forget and rework the legends and the backstories in the previous ones. And the Sorcerer was another one of those where, okay, there's more immortals and they're back again and they're back at it, totally sort of ruining the continuity between the first two. But number 2 had already kind of trashed that. Are they from another planet? Are they immortals? Are they supernatural? You can't tell because every movie has a different origin for them. And then I guess you get to the last one, which was wrapping up the TV series, which wasn't probably quite as bad as the 2 and 3.
I mean, the irony being, of course, in Highlander, the most famous quote from the entire movie was the fact that there could only be one, and yet there were multiple sequels. They should have just stuck with the first one. And as you're right, Daniel, after the first one, it turned into a train wreck. How to screw your own franchise.
It should have been, there should be only one.
Yes, indeed.
But, there you go. Now, another classic science fiction that I loved growing up, it was sort of a guilty pleasure, but a lot of people love this movie, was the original Escape from New York. It had the Duke of Manhattan. It had a sort of, I guess, dystopian future where the whole of New York has been turned into a prison. It was that classic story of getting out the president that had crashed in there. A fantastic movie, done on the cheap with a lot of charm. And then they decided to make Escape from LA. Not done on the cheap, no charm at all. The worst surfing, footage ever seen in a Hollywood movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like
it was? Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just asking your opinion if you like the original and what you thought of the sequel.
Oh yeah, huge fan of the first one. The concept is fantastic, and it worked really, really well. And should have just left it at that. But when they did the second one, it's like you don't need another escape from another city just because you're on the West Coast now instead of the East Coast. And it was very cheesy. And it was like, yeah, we've been there, done that. Should have just stuck with the first one. And it's very funny. Some people even thought, I think even John Carpenter said, oh, you thought the LA version was better than the New York version. I was like, dude, what were you smoking when you said that? It's like, there's no way in the world. The first one was outstandingly good. But
I think,
Russell, there we go. Escape from Brunswick. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So, yeah, very, very cool.
Death in Brunswick. I think Michelle Forbes, who was Ensign Rhodes, quit Star Trek because she was being offered amazing movies like this.
Yeah, no, it's, you know what, in the pantheon of sci-fi, just Escape from LA doesn't exist. Just stick with New York and be done with it. So there you go. Speaking of sequels, just like this one.
Well, this is one I was quite surprised about. Plan 9 from Outer Space. Let's just say it's the movie that's so bad it's good. It's beloved because of what it is. It was taken seriously when it was being made, and it turned out to be a bit of a joke, but it's so watchable because of the concept of how it was made and how bad it is. Some people like that. When you do a sequel and deliberately try and make it bad to ape the irony of the original, you're just going out to make a bad movie that should never be made. And this is interesting to me because when the Vial sent this to me, I did not realize it was about Mormons and Mormon prophets and stuff like that. I'm a Mormon, so I'll have to check that out. But, there's no copies anywhere. That's how bad it is. I think the Vial has chased them all down and incinerated them. Have you seen this movie, Dags?
No. Never even heard of it, but I do concede that, yes, you are right. If you deliberately try and make a film bad, it doesn't work because they have to be just intended to be good. They just don't turn out good. And, yeah, it's just as soon as someone had said, oh, we're going to do a sequel to Plan 9, it just don't even bother. So, yeah, no-brainer. Very cool.
And here's one where it's an example of, like, making too many movies in a good franchise. Love it or hate it, you've got to admit the original Karate Kid has a bit of charm, and Karate Kid 2 continues that story, and for the fans of the original is a worthy sequel. But then you get to the Karate Kid 3 and the wheels fall off. The acting, I think, is the main thing for me, and the storyline where suddenly you're away from the dojo and you're looking at a $20,000 bonsai tree, and it's a very unbelievable plot. And then you bring in someone even meaner and worse than Kreese, and he doesn't seem to have any motivation. But then the producers can't let sleeping dogs lie, and one of Hilary Swank's earliest movie is The Next Karate Kid. Now, that one gets buried. When you have a collection of all the Karate Kids, they don't even bother putting that one on. So that really tells you how lowly regarded it is by the creators. That said, she's about the only character that hasn't been resurrected in Cobra Kai, so they could always go there.
I love this one, right? Now, Russell usually is the one who comes up with all the rip-it-off-the-card fun factoids. Jeffro, who's decided to get into it as well, and has mentioned the reason why that you pronounce Mulcahy wrong is that because Molly Meldrum used to say it that way and nobody knew any differently. So so he's thinking that you've picked it up from there, which I think was kind of brilliant.
I absolutely have. Do you know why? Because Russell Mulcahy directed all of the Duran Duran film clips that I know him from Countdown.
There you go. That's your excuse, and you're sticking with it. And Rusky Babes, who didn't have any fun factoids, actually said that there were a couple of Plan 9 sequels and spin-offs and musicals as well. Yeah, we can always just go back to the original. Speaking of sequels, this franchise had shitloads.
Well, here we go. And it's one of those things where it's kind of one of those urban legends that every second Star Trek movie is good. So you've got the odds and even numbers rule. But when you look at it closely, really look at it closely, maybe it isn't so much like that anymore. I asked the Vile to rate Vile and non-Vile, the Star Trek sequels, and he kind of gave a scale of which ones he liked better than the others. And he came back to me with this, and I pretty much agree with him, where there are some there in the non-Vile ones that aren't as good as some of the really good ones, but there aren't too many that really dip into that's totally Vile category. What do you think?
Well, it's very funny because I had a look at the Viles listing and I thought, no, I'm going to channel my inner Vile, right? Because as I said, I am an acolyte, I'm actually a bit of a Vile supporter. And I thought, no, he's got a couple of these wrong. He's clearly got his wires completely arse about, and the Vile is watching this right now. Clearly, he obviously meant that there's a couple of changes, that Star Trek 3 is a Vile movie, Star Trek 5 is a good one, and which is he's particularly groovy. And that's actually the Star Trek reboot 2009, which was shit, and Into Darkness was good. So that's, I think, the list is how it was meant to be.
Well, the thing about Star Trek 5, I love it. Any movie that has old men sitting around a campfire farting because they're eating baked beans, it's Star Trek 5 and Blazing Saddles that get away with it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, singing row, row, row your boat. So absolutely fantastic. So I personally think this is how the list should look. I think the one you had previously, I think the Vile might have been smoking the wacky tobacco or something. So very good stuff. But yes, you are right. Historically, every second movie wasn't the best. But these days, things are a little different. Look at this. You actually enjoyed Insurrection. You're probably the only one who did, dude, because it was boring as batshit. So there you go.
Now, before we get to the Vile's final category of the worst sequels ever, there's a couple of honorable mentions. Basic Instinct, an erotic thriller. Basic Instinct 2, not a thriller, not erotic. Mask. The first one, I don't think it's as aged as well as it did. It was an amazing CGI movie when it came out, which captured everyone's imagination. Son of Mask captured nobody's imagination. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you, Dags?
No, didn't even know it existed. No.
Don't. Caddyshack, it's one of those sort of almost National Lampoon types movies that reminds you of that era. It was very funny at the time, probably hasn't aged so well. Caddyshack 2 basically couldn't get any of the original cast back and recast them with similar, and it was aged as soon as it came out, and it was not aged like a good wine. It was aged more like rotten cheese or something. And then one of the ones that shocks me is Starship Troopers, where the original one was a big budget, serious sci-fi movie that did really, really well. And so the studio decided to follow it up with a direct-to-video cheapie, basically set in one base where the bugs aren't even the big bugs from the original movie anymore. One of the most disappointing sequels I ever saw.
I tend to agree with you. I saw Starship Troopers and it was utter shit. It really was. I heard it was made by some visual effects guys and it had it was all about the nudity and the sex and all the rest of it, and completely missed the point of the original story. And I thought, oh my God, what have they done? It's ruined it.
It was a total cash in. I don't even think it got a cinema release. I think it went straight to video. So that's the mark of quality that only the Vile can appreciate.
Yeah, it's very funny. A lot of people have been saying comments about when they do a second movie, which is complete rubbish, the third one ends up being quite good. And that's maybe the case where they've sort of gone down and come back up again. But we're talking about direct sequels, not what happens when they go, oh, we've got another opportunity to try and fix their mistakes and they actually do okay. So, but yeah, in terms of the franchise, they killed it. So I hated it.
So this is the number one most violated franchise, and I think it's good that Gavin actually picked it up right at the very beginning when he said like Police Academy 200. Who watched the first Police Academy and said we need to have sequels because there's too many unanswered questions? Not me. The Police Academy movies are interesting because for me it's kind of a stealth drop in quality where each movie kind of, if you liked the original, because there's so many characters and there's so many different plots. Each movie kind of has some of those characters. Is a little bit funny, but by the time you get to the last one, there's none of the original characters, none of the original plots. All of the cast have moved on. Steve Guttenberg's career died. You've got, and then you've got sort of the last couple, which were, I think, Miami Beach, and then they go to Moscow or something, where you might have one of the original cast, or the ones that can't get jobs in any other franchise because they've so been associated with Police Academy. What do you think about the Vile's choice for the worst sequels ever?
Yeah, I never watched any of the Police Academy movies. They don't interest me. I don't like comedies. So, yeah, I got nothing to comment regarding that. Rusky Babe made a mention about Insurrection. It was clearly a 2-part TV episode, and it should have been on TV. Wasn't strong enough for a movie. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Moneybag Sullivan made 2 hours of your life back from Starship Troopers 2. I totally agree with that. And regarding anything to do with Paul Verhoeven, yes, I agree with you. Sequels, do you want to see more? Yeah, in this case, definitely not. But historically, yes, the more you do, the worse they get. And that makes no surprise whatsoever. Then you're right, the cast eventually say, you know what, we're not doing anymore. They're just doing it for a cash in. And in some cases, they don't even get that money back. So, very good. Red Sheffro said worst ever Flying High 2. Oh, okay. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I may have seen it, but I don't remember it.
It's not the greatest.
No, exactly right. Sorry, go on.
There are a lot of bad sequels out there. You're spoilt for choice, and the Vile has just highlighted a few of them.
So what are you trying to tell me about all these particular sequel movies that the Vile has picked out for you tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, there's some there that he didn't highlight, but he has so many in his collection. We didn't want the whole even taken over by sequels. But they've gone to Rotten Tomatoes, come through the Vile, been certified, and they are well and truly violated.
Totally agree. And whilst we're doing that, Russell's fun factoids about Verhoeven. You want to do iconic movies about the Hitler Youth and speculative fiction. Yeah, very, very good. You keep typing those fun factoids, Rusky Babes. I'm sure someone out there is, what can I say, pausing this episode to read them all, because that is a very, very groovy. And the Vile, how's this? Forgot to put in the Blues Brothers 2000. Oh, and the guy went Scarlet, the gone with Windseeker. There you go.
Do you know what? There is going to be a sequel to this segment that is only half as good as this one, which will be the sequel to the bad sequels, where we can put all the ones that he forgot this time round.
Absolutely. Yes, last minute additions. That's what the Vile does. He chucks things in at the last minute, causing us distress. Maybe even our own episodes. You know, if we do a rip it off the card version too, they'll go, oh no, that's sequel. The new version is crap. Bring back the old rip it off the card. So there you go. Rusky Babes needs his own segment. I totally agree with you on that one, Mr. Gavin. Very, very cool.
I think Russell is clever, because what he does is put fun factoid, and then he knows you'll flash it up. So anyone who's rewatching it, they can pause it, and he becomes a part of the show for everyone else.
Yep, totally agree. There's a whole lot of discussions about the sequel to Gone with the Wind at the moment, but we're going to move on because we are actually running behind time, and we've still got to get through this.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, Mr. Aaron, what are we talking about tonight?
So we'll jump in quick because we are running behind time. But tonight we're looking at everyone's favourite form of toys. We looked at the George Glass one earlier. We're going to have a pop report. So we're having a look at what the pops are going for. Have they gone up? Have they gone down? Does anybody really care?
Oh, cop this one from Moneybag Sullivan. He's saying about the sequel trilogy from Star Wars being like crap sequels. I'm like, oh, dude, where? Geez, that's a low blow. What can I say? Hey, very, very cool. All right, let's move on. All right, so here we go. So, yes, these are all sold items. Give us a guess as to what you think they sold for. What do we got tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Everybody loves a good pop, but does people out there like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles glow-in-the-dark 4-pack Amazon exclusive? Now, Amazon exclusive means you could only buy them from Amazon. And what do most people do? Buy stuff from Amazon. So I don't know how exclusive that actually makes it. I've often thought about making Aaron's Collectibles little stickers and putting them on all our pops and saying exclusively this sticker is available, Aaron's Collectibles, and see if all our pops go up in value.
I love it because I was going to say that sticker there, you could easily just replace that with another sticker. So imagine that, the Aaron's Collectibles exclusive pop, and then you'd find your was it the Judy Brady, whatever it is, and the Mr. Glass thing will go up in value. Oh my God, got to get myself one of those. Have you got the Aaron's Collectibles exclusive? No? Oh, dude, you're missing out. All right, so what do we got for the TMNT? Michael Herbert over in Bangkok has gone for 50 cents. That's not even like 25 cents a pop. That's like only like 15 cents or whatever. By contrast, Gavin's gone for $750. Holy guacamole. Rusky Babes is at 120. Thomas is at 185. Greg King chucking in the $2, 50 cents. Turtle. I love the sound of that. Moneybag Sullivan's at 120. Collins at 35. Jonathan. Good to see Jonathan joining the show for the first time tonight. Is at 88. Joshua. Good to also see you doing the show for the first time tonight. Is 100. William is at 40. So there you go. Very, very cool. Glow in the dark. It's always important that your turtles glow in the dark. What can I see? That's very, very important. Amazon exclusive pop vinyl Funko 4-pack. Very groovy. All they need to do is introduce a 5th turtle, and this box will be completely out of date. There you go. All right, so how much do you reckon they went for? 4-pack Amazon exclusive, still brand new, looking very, very cool. They went for a whopping $1,200. Holy guacamole.
That is just crazy, isn't it? So you've got $300 a turtle right there.
Moneybags, if you had to stuck an extra zero, you would have been right on the money, literally, as it were. I got no idea who's got this. No one is even remotely close. Gavin, maybe it's $750, but he's still got to cough up a few $100. And there you go. How about that? Isn't that ridiculous? $1,200.
I think Gavin has it. I did a look at the pops because I have noticed we've been getting more in than we've been selling, which usually means that the franchise is on the way out. So I was looking at the prices, and no, prices are holding firm.
Ange has asked why. This is always the question we ask in this segment, Ange. Why? What is the deal? So there you go. Maybe they are actually radioactive. You never know. All right. So expensive paperweights and a hard shell. Use each one to chock up the tires of the car as you do it, give it a service. All right. Very, very cool. All right. Let's go for the next one. Oh, look at this.
Well, this is a bulk lot of blue box 28 Star Wars pops. They're vaulted, which means that they're not available anymore. The original Star Wars pops came out in blue boxes, and then they were replaced with red box ones. So the blue box are the first edition book. They're the first edition pop that everyone's after. So Star Wars is a popular franchise. You get like a whole bunch of them in one go. No mess, no fuss, instant collection. What do you think that little tower of pops would go for?
So Andrew said, nah, stuff the 50-cent gag joke. He's gone the full $20,000 if you don't mind, umpire. Colin has gone for $1,500. Gavin is at $3,470. Thomas is at $4,500. That is a lot of money on friggin' pops. What can I say, kids? Jonathan's at $7,200. Moneybag Sullivan is at $5,000. Joshua is at $5,000 as well. Absolutely insane. Grant has said, nah, stuff that. $250 will do me. Thank you very much. Greg King has not let me down at $2 each. Absolutely outstanding. And in fact, some of those are probably worth less than $2 each. So, what do you reckon? I mean, that is a lot of money for what is essentially rubbish. Blue box, 28 of them damn things, and they're vaulted. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Violating all these Star Wars pops is Cradden Vile. That's the answer to the question from earlier. Is the Vile at 7,000? Mark said 6,000 wasted dollars. I totally agree with you on that one. And 2,500 for William. All right, so what do you reckon they went for, kids? 28 pop vinyls, including vaulted. It's all good in the boxes, looking absolutely spectacular, complete and utter rubbish. They went for a whopping $1,090.
Yeah. So I don't know what to think about that. Some people thought it'd go for a lot more, and some people thought it would go for a lot less. Interestingly enough, I think that is one of those auctions. If you did split it all up and sell them separately, you'd get a whole lot more.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Considering the previous one went for a couple $1,000, $1,200. So actually, it's kind of funny. So if I go back, so it was $1,200 just for that because it's the what do you call it, exclusive bullshit, and I come to this one. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, kind of can't figure that one out.
They're not radioactive and don't glow in the dark though.
No, they do not. Nothing that a can of spray paint won't fix. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, next one up. Oh, check it out. It's a Greedo. What if he shot first?
So Greedo, another one that is a rare vaulted Star Wars blue box pop. This one is Greedo. Now, sometimes the ones that go for a lot are Comic Con exclusives or they're like shop exclusives. This is just the standard Greedo that you could buy if you went down to EB Games when they were around. How much for Greedo?
I love it. Ange said 50 cents originally. They went to 20 grand and goes, oh, that didn't kind of work. So he's gone back to 15 bucks. Collins, hang on. Collins at 4.59. There you go. Very, very cool. Moneybag Sullivan said 40 bucks. Thomas has said 8. Joshua is at 250. There's a real, nobody really knows about this one. Gavin is at 57. Jonathan is at 850. Nobody really knows. Good old Greedo. Absolutely awesome. He's either he's at the before or after he gets shot by Han and has a bullet hole in his chest. Where was I? Violating Greedo. Oh, I'd love to see that. Is the Violet 940. So there you go. What do you reckon? Rare, since you put the word rare in there, it's got to be very, very groovy. Blue box, Greedo, pop vinyl figurine. What does everything? Mr. Greg, $2. I'm with you on that one. I reckon it's complete and utter rubbish. So there you go. If you actually change the name, you could actually change him to his cousin. I think it was Beto who appeared in Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace. Looks same color and everything. So, yeah, it could be a completely different character. Just change the name in the box. And William has said 300. So there you go. Very, very groovy. What do you reckon it went for, kids? Greedo in the box. Looking very, very cool. He went for a whopping $1,500 freaking dollars. What's the deal with that?
So one Greedo is worth more than 28 other pops from that line. I don't know.
That
maybe he was hard to get.
That is utter bullshit. What's the deal, guy? I agree. What the? Poor old Ange doesn't know what to do with his friggin' bids now. It's like, oh my God.
It is one of those things where I do not understand the economy of pop vinyls. They must have made exactly the same number of that one because it is a standard pop as all the others, but there you go.
That is utter bull. In fact, one bid. So someone just walked in and said, yep, I'll cough up $1,500 for that. So absolutely insane was Greedo in the Bad Batch. Not that I'm aware of if I could. His species may have been as a Rhodian, but not the character. So, yeah. How about that? You're destined for violation. Isn't that just ridiculous? So it's a good question, Moneybags. Did the bulk group have a Greedo as well? I'm not entirely sure.
No,
but
it didn't. The bulk group did not have a Greedo. Maybe someone knows about the Book of Greedo coming soon or something like that.
Yeah. No, as I said, Wall Street, Greedo is good. Absolutely. Oh, well done there. Well done. Greedy for Greedo. That's just bullshit, isn't it? Anyway, see, you can't predict these things, can you? And that's just, imagine saying to someone, I bought this and I paid $1,500 for it. They'll think, mate, you need your head read. So there you go.
So this is a 2016 New York Comic Con limited edition Batgirl. So we've gone from one franchise over to another franchise. So this is the Batman franchise. I think it was limited edition because it was different color from the usual standard Batgirl that came out.
Yeah, sorry, Grant. I just reread your message. You're talking about the big batch, which is what the same question was that Moneybags had. So there you go. All right, so it's a Batgirl, very, very groovy. Ange has sort of given up, and he's just gone for that kind of number. Colin said $2,000. Nobody now knows what to put in, do they? Gavin has said $10,000. Moneybags is at 500. Thomas is at 450. Joshua's at 800. This is just bullshit, isn't it? Jonathan's at 650. What is it going to go for? A Batgirl. It's New York Comic Con, by the way. So according to this, which is kind of, if that's not mistaken. Where were we? Jonathan said 650. Grant has gone right down to 10. Carol, $14,600. Holy guacamole. And Greg, well done, sir. $2. He never lets me down. What can I say? And William has gone in for 1966, which is actually very, very, very clever. Violating Batgirl, as one should always do, is the Violet $850. Absolutely awesome. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for? Funko Pop Vinyl DC Batgirl 2016 New York Comic Con. It went for a whopping $1.
99 cents. No, 99. But Greg King gets it. Ding, 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 ding.
He gets a dollar back.
Again, the postage is more than the actual pop.
What's the deal? Dude, explain it to me.
I do not know. It wouldn't be one that was available locally, I wouldn't think, if it was a limited edition and it was from the New York Comic Con. The only thing I can think of, if they produced a shit ton of them and they weren't allowed to sell them in America and they all got shipped out to Australia when they did sell at the con, possibly. But you just cannot tell with those pops. If you queued up for hours and hours to get your limited edition Batgirl pop, when you could have been going to panels and chatting to people and looking at different displays, you'd be pretty upset that that was a waste of your time, where you might have queued up for 2 hours for a 99-cent investment.
That is absolutely unbelievable. $1 frigging dollar. And as I've said before, if you're going to sell something for $1, why even bother? Just throw it out the window and be done with it. Take it out of the box and just chuck it out. Yeah, exactly right. And Greg King, you get 100% profit on it too. Put in the garage sale for $2. So absolutely fantastic. So just the reaction from all the people. It's like, what? So how do you go from $1,500 for the previous one for Greedo, who's a really ugly looking alien, to Batgirl, who's a rather attractive lady? What's the deal? Oh, I can never explain that one. So
I think as Greg got that, I'll have to Photoshop that into his garage sale hidden there somewhere for next week.
The Vile has put through a fantastic comment, but I can't put it on screen because it's a little bit crass, but I'll tell you what, it's absolutely fantastic. So there you go. And Jeff Rowe said it was actually available locally without the sticker. So unbelievable. So with that in mind, what do you reckon this is worth, kids?
So this is a San Diego Comic-Con Blue Cheshire Cat limited edition, 480 pop. I don't know if that's the number they made or the number of the pop. I don't think it is, because it says 35 on it. With the Cheshire Cat, his regular color is purple and pink, and I have seen Day Glow, Glow in the Dark, all these different artist ones at the moment. I've seen different colors. This is the blue Cheshire Cat. So if anyone has a blue fetish, this is the one they want for their collection.
Yeah, and if you don't like the color, nothing that a can of spray paint won't fix. Poor old Ange, he's got no idea what he's doing anymore. He's just making stuff up. I'm sure he's sitting there going, Ken Bruce has got mad. Ken Bruce has got mad in the background. Absolutely awesome. Carol said 60. Moneybag Sullivan said 750. Nobody has any idea what to do now. Gavin has said 5 cents. He's kind of given up. Colin has said 250. James, good to see James joining the show right down towards the very end at $150. Jonathan is at 375. Who is going to be grinning like a Cheshire Cat? That's the question. Joshua, said 600. William is at 1868. Grant is at 20. No, Greg, to see he's on a roll at $2. You never know. Could be batting for 2 for 2 here. Who's going to put $2.01 to try and cash in on Greg's success? Thomas is at $80. Look, guys, it's to Geelong like 50. It's like Geelong like 50 cents. It's like a Geelong football team colours. I absolutely love it. I hadn't thought of that before when I looked at that. Very, very cool. All right, so what do you reckon it went for? San Diego Comic-Con Blue Cheshire Cat. It's the 48 pop. Absolutely fantastic. Nobody has any idea what this is going to be selling for. It's completely left field. It went for a whopping. Take a guess, kids. It went for a whopping $1,700.
For me, it just looks like a cat that looks like roadkill because it's got a tire print across the front of it. I do not understand, like I've said before, the economy of pops. How can that be so much more than the limited edition Batgirl? Well done, William. You got pretty close on that one. Everyone was all over the place on that. Pops, unless you're an expert and you know what they're going for, you just have no idea. It's the Wheel of Fortune on price with pops.
Oh dear. Well, guess what, William? You even get some change out of that too. Oh, look, I can't figure it out. It's beyond me. So the cat that ate the cream, yeah. It's just mind blowing, isn't it? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I seriously can't figure it out. But how about that? Wasn't that absolutely fantastic?
Yep. It just shows you we can put pops on as often as you like, and really, it's just total pop luck.
Is it potluck? Would you say potluck or pop luck?
Pop luck.
Pop luck. Yep, absolutely
it's a play
fantastic.
On
so there you go. Very, very good. Yes, you're right, William. You did win one. It just goes to show how these things work. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, speaking on the theme of merchandise, some that sold and some that didn't. Our discussion again is, of course, on the Phantom Menace. And before we get into the main topic of the conversation, a couple of things I wanted to quickly bring up. Last week we were discussing about the documentary, The Phantom Menace, and I realised afterwards there is actually There was a DVD produced for it. And this is just for people to see. This is what the cover looks like, just to show that, yes, it did actually exist. It came out in about 2000 or 2002, something like that. So you won't see this around anywhere, even though Christy, who I don't think is watching tonight, has one of these for sale for 50 cents. And if you do want to find it on the internet, you can look it up, the phantommenace.com. That's the website. It's still active, which is kind of groovy. And there's actually, if you look up here, all these different bits and pieces you can check out regarding the show. But as we said, you need to sign in to watch it. I don't know why. There's nothing adult about it whatsoever. I mean, the word bong gets used once, but I don't know if that's what it is. But yes, talk about the history of Star Wars fandom in this country when the Phantom Menace was coming out in 1999. So there you go. What do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron?
Well, you know, a bong is actually the name of a sub from Jar Jar Binks.
It's
like
Bongo. It's Bongo.
Yeah, the bong goes.
Good on you. And just quickly, I'll just one photo. The only photo I could find. We'll talk about the Maya Special Edition launch from 1997. And I said, "Yep, I was up on the stage." That's Tim Ferguson there, and that was the only picture I had from it. So if you can turn the camera around, there's like 1,000 people in the crowd in Burke Street.
It was huge. It was absolutely a huge event that filled up the whole mall. The trams were dinging to get people out of the way. I remember.
Yeah, that would be completely true as well. I rented the DVD doco from Blockbuster back in the day. Oh, really? Oh, well, there you go. I didn't even realize it was for rent. So, yes, very, very cool. But the film was there. Definitely, if you're a Star Wars fan and you like your history, especially with Phantom Menace, be sure to check it out. So, but in the interim, speaking of Phantom Menace, we're talking about that.
We hope you like Phantom Menace if you're watching tonight, because this is part 2 of our look into the Phantom Menace. And again, this is a little bit different than when we've looked at other movies from Star Wars, because I've tried to be pretty thorough and pretty concise on all the merchandise that came out. And I had a sinking feeling when I was doing this that you just can't, because usually we do a couple of slides and move on each category. But if you did all of the Phantom Menace posters or all of the Phantom Menace comics or things like that, you'd probably do half of the show just on one topic, because there was that much stuff. So again, we're going to be going through the topics we usually look at, and Dags and I are going to just be walking you through memory lane about some of these products when they came out. So this isn't as complete as all the other episodes have been. And some of the stuff is very interesting. I was saying to Dags, I remember a lot of merchandise, particularly advertising paraphernalia, that I cannot find copies of online anywhere. So a lot of this stuff was around, was huge, and got thrown out.
So the first thing we're going to be showing you is some posters, and a lot of things that a lot of people will remember is the first teaser poster that came out, and it was an absolute ball terror. And it's the one up here with Anakin with Vader's shadow, and it was like, oh my god, dude, that is awesome. What do you reckon?
So there are different awards in media for press campaigns and posters and stuff like that. And the Phantom Menace poster, which I think came out about 18 months before the movie was actually released. The poster came out before the name of the movie was even released. It was nominated as one of the best posters in movie history that year. And I can understand that, because when that was sort of the first image that was released and everyone was like, that's Anakin. Oh, look at the shadow in the background. It's Darth Vader foreshadowing his future on Tatooine. Everybody loved this poster. And it is funny because at the time, the internet wasn't as around as well and as big as it is today. And I know that there was a shop in Melbourne we've talked about before called Moviola that would get in the American debuts of posters, because, you know, for anyone who's in the know, you want to get the American version of the poster because that's the one that's worth more down the track. And I ordered, I think, 5, you know, 1 for me to keep and 4 to sell because they're going to be worth a fortune. And Dave, who was running the show, said, they're never going to be worth anything. And I said, well, why? They had a hologram on them proving they were from Lucasfilm, so you couldn't get counterfeits because they were worried about that. He said it's the biggest selling poster we've ever had up until this point. We've sold about 20 times more of this poster than we have on any other poster of anything we've ever released. So by the law of numbers, it's never, ever going to be worth anything. And you know what? I still have all 5 of mine rolled up in the original roll in the garage, and you can still get them for less than I bought them from Moviola, because now the internet has made stuff so much more accessible.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that was the issue that we discussed this last week about people buying all this stuff to put away for an investment, and because everybody did exactly the same thing, and as a result, there's just way too many of them out there. Regarding that particular poster, that was one that got us all excited, and it was like, as we said last week, and we don't want to repeat ourselves too much, but a lot of the lead up to the film was absolutely spectacular, and it just got everybody completely sucked in. So we talked about the trailer last week, and now we're talking about the poster this week. And that first poster was like, oh, dude, that is awesome. So even if you didn't know who Anakin Skywalker was, that was, as you said, funnily enough, a foreshadowing of his change to Vader. So, but it's as simplistic as it is. It had everything you needed to know about it right there and then. So yeah, it was particularly groovy. But anyway, we move on.
And then the actual official poster came out from Drew Shrewsman, who does a lot of amazing art for Lucasfilm. And again, it was one of those posters that everybody thought this is like one of the greatest posters ever. I can't remember, as we discussed last week, anyone really complaining about any of the lead-up merchandise to Star Wars. Dags and I are totally different. I jumped into it and tried to collect everything. Dags admired it and stood back but didn't collect anything. But you would remember the absolute excitement every single time something was released. It was more and more hype, and it was better and better, and everyone was definitely on the bandwagon.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I was a part of Star Walking at the time. We were running our Skyforce meetings both in Melbourne and in Sydney, and of course the auctions. People were buying a lot of stuff to sell in the auction. So it was called Episode 1, Episode 1 this, and Episode 1 that, and it was just everywhere. It was all over the place, and even in the club, it was just too much. You could see people having like massive dealers tables full of all this stuff that nobody was really after because they already had it all. And I think a lot of people were burnt out very, very quickly, both in the credit cards and in their mindset. And as a consequence, it was pretty clear to see that, yes, it had already gone too far, too fast. And
it was so popular. I think you were telling me the trailer dropped with the first images of Darth Maul, and within about 2 days, one of our friends had already replicated the question and was at a meeting in full Darth Maul.
That was actually Justin so the trailer comes out, and I think in '97 or whatever it was, and we had a Christmas party, and he was already dressed up as Darth Maul just based on images from the thing. So it was very well, the dual edge saber and all the rest. It was very, very cool. So yes, It was a good time to be a fan, but not good if you didn't have a very big budget.
So there was, as you can see, Jar Jar is shocked. There was a lot of different posters in the global marketing campaign. Some of them were very colourful. Some of them were used as comic book covers and other things down the track. Some of them weren't to advertise the movie. We've seen it before. Some of them were sold in like Kmart and Target as just sort of Phantom Menace memorabilia. The two ones at the top there, the photo montages were ones like that. They were all very successful. They all sold very well. One of the things I couldn't find, I think you would remember this, they did chrome posters, which were like already framed sort of little posters that was the original special edition and for the Phantom Menace. And I couldn't even find any copies of those online. So there is stuff out there that has slipped through the cracks of history with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Yes, there were certainly some good poster choices out there. And I guess what worked well for the prequel trilogies, all the three of them, episode 1, 2, and 3, the posters, as in like the theatrically released ones, all fit really nice together as a bit of a group. So, they make a nice little set.
So these are some of the international ones. And this is interesting because I thought that poster might have been advertising for the manga comic, but it was apparently one of the posters they used for the movie in Japan. And another one of those things, stuff has disappeared to history. There was a set of character posters where just about every character in the movie got a poster, like on the right there, you've got Darth Maul and a battle droid and Anakin. And I cannot find copies of any of them. They did exist because I found 3 of them there. And if a battle droid got the poster, of course there was going to be Queen Amidala and Obi-Wan and the other ones. But some of this stuff, just by the volume it was out at the time, no one could collect it all. If you collected maybe just posters, maybe you got a collection. But if you were a general Star Wars fan and tried to get some of everything, it was impossible. I actually remember reading an interview by Steve Sansweet where even he, when he saw the amount of merchandise coming out for Phantom Menace, said, I can't get all this anymore. He used to get everything. For those who don't know, he's sort of one of the biggest Star Wars collectors in the world. And he was trying to get the episode 1 stuff, and it even got too much for him.
The Anakin picture over here, it looks interesting because it looks like they just got a screen grab off the movie, because it's unlike the Darth Maul one where it's clearly a what do you call it, a photography studio. It looks like they're just taking a screen grab and just putting like photoshopped out the background and just put him in there. Yeah, it's a bit on the cheap side. So yeah,
it is. I think the interesting thing I've seen with researching the episode 1 stuff the last couple of weeks, like those Photoshop posters I was talking about, they are just Photoshop from the 90s. They aren't as professional as you would get the finish today, where they're nice posters and they were totally acceptable at the time. But now you look at them and go, well, they're a relic from the 90s because they wouldn't be passed like that today.
Yeah, and you're right. And like Photoshop was just finding its way in the world in the 90s as well. So the stuff that you saw then, you go, oh, that's awesome. People could just do that today in a heartbeat. But that's what it was. It was 23 years ago. You got to accept that. And I did find interesting, just very quickly, they did a battle droid one. Not exactly one of the most memorable characters in the thing. So, but I like the idea of one mind. That's kind of groovy, considering they're all controlled by the same control ship. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So these are some of the posters that were associated with some of the merchandise release. And if you were collecting posters, this is sometimes the hardest stuff to find because it isn't released to the public to buy. You've just got to scavenge it when they don't use it, or from bins and stuff. Now, you've got the Australian Party Pack $20 KFC where you can get free KFC Star Wars cards. And I remember trying to collect all those down and enjoying more KFC than I usually eat. And that's quite a lot. You've got the Pepsi advertising, the Pizza Hut advertising. Down the bottom, though, there is some really nice individual character posters again. And I couldn't find really any good pictures of them. But Jar Jar, Darth Maul, Anakin, which is sort of down the bottom laid down, and then above them is a Star Wars logo and a Queen Amidala. They were Target Australia ones, and I had all of those, and over time, they've been given away or sold and things like that. Online, that was the only photo I could find, and really interesting. When I'm putting slides together for this, it's good to have nice logos, and see that episode 1 logo, which is the starburst in red with the Star Wars logo in the middle. I could not even find that exact logo online doing searches and stuff. So there is a lot of stuff out there from episode 1 that's sort of been lost to history. Do you remember all of these when you'd go from different shops? I'm sure you would.
Yeah, there's definitely a few I do. And there's one I'm going to bring up in a sec. But before I do that, Rusky Bay's made a point about the fact that there's a lot of pirate collectibles. Yeah, clearly there was a huge market for this stuff, at least initially. And you're right, there were knockoffs all over the place. So that is obviously, that happens a lot with anything that's very, very popular. I remember this poster up here quite well, actually, because we had them for sale in our auctions at Skyforce. And it's kind of funny because because it's referring to Own It Today on video, it's the video poster, and there was no demand for these at all, because by then the Phantom Menace had exactly tarnished its own image. People weren't interested in it, and we had these brand spanking new in the auction, and they just weren't in demand at all. So it is
crazy.
By then the damage was done, unfortunately. So there you go.
Yeah, I got the Target posters because Target was sent all this free advertising for Phantom Menace, and they basically go, nah, we've got enough. We're not putting any more out. And I worked in a shop in Camberwell, and there was a big Target in Camberwell, and basically they were getting the advertising stuff and they were bringing it straight up to the second-hand shop and selling it to me for a couple of dollars a piece.
A couple of these I've never seen before.
So these are interesting. With the episode 1 stuff, I've sort of looked at it holistically rather than the stuff what was available at the time and the stuff after. These were the 3D reissue that came out about 10 years ago now, just before Disney bought Star Wars. They were going to reissue once a year all of the Star Wars movies at IMAX in 3D and in local cinemas, getting sort of a limited edition reissue. And the Phantom Menace came out, and I don't think they ever admitted it, but I heard that the advertising they put into it and fixing it up into 3D cost them more than they made when they reissued it in the cinema. So episode 2, 3, and the originals were quietly swept away, and that was all we ever heard of that. I do think they made a big mistake. I do think if they'd started at Star Wars and 3D done Star Wars Empire and Jedi, they would have still been a massive hit. I think starting at episode 1, not the most well regarded at the time, probably put an end to any more 3D Star Wars movies.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. I didn't even go and see this because I just simply wasn't interested. I really didn't want to see the film again. So, but I never saw the posters before. Some of them are actually kind of groovy. I like the Darth Maul one at the bottom. The last we'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi. But you are right. But straight after this, they Lucasfilm got sold to Disney, and they said, "No, not interested," and that was the end of that. But yeah, A New Hope in 3D would have been kind of groovy, but it would have made a lot more money too. So,
I
yeah.
don't know if you remember, IMAX used to do a trailer for 3D, and one of the sections of film that had been 3D-ized or whatever the process was the Tantive going over the top of the camera from the opening. And I used to go, oh, I'd love to see Star Wars in 3D, but that's all they've ever done. Just that.
Yeah, that
clip.
was that was a reshoot. There was a documentary made about, because I saw it in IMAX in Sydney, and they actually refilmed that sequence with the start of A New Hope with the Tantive 4 and the Devastator and all the rest of it, and it looked fantastic. And IMAX was like, oh my god, that is awesome. But you are right, that's the only thing they did. So, yeah, very cool. Anything else you want to mention about the posters before we move on?
No, let's move on.
Okay.
One of the other things that every Star Wars movie has been super successful in launching is the comic books, and Phantom Menace was no different. Again, because a lot of these came out before the movie, they sold a ton of comic books, and it was a coup because Dark Horse had the rights because Marvel had let them lapse and weren't really interested. Star Wars always sort of sold well as a comic after the original Marvel series ended. That was sort of the last time that there wasn't enough interest to keep a comic series going. And Star Wars has always existed from this point as some kind of comic book in some form or another. The Phantom Menace stuff sold phenomenally well. Again, they had, don't care about spoilers, they had all the comics out before the movie was released. And being, aiming at the collectible market, they had multiple covers and photo covers and chase covers and hologram and foil covers. Down the bottom, I was researching it. I was quite surprised. They have actually gone up in value quite a lot. Issue 3 of the Phantom Menace, episode 1, is the first appearance of Darth Maul, and that goes up to $150 just for that comic. And then you can pick up 1, 2, 3, and 4 for about $150 too. I think mainly because people want issue 3 to get the first Darth Maul. I remember getting this. I thought the covers were stunning. They were very different from the Marvel covers. They were more adult, in my opinion. Some of the things like Darth Maul were very menacing compared to some of the old comics. And I thought the artwork inside probably did a better job of capturing the characters than some of the Marvel stuff did.
Yeah, I think it's to do with the artwork myself personally, because there's obviously a lot more artwork involved with the comics than anything else. And that was probably more appealing for fans than the actual story itself. A couple of points here, and I reckon this is a good one, actually. Rusky Babes has said if they were to do a 50th anniversary 3D release in 2027, which is only like a few years away for A New Hope, that would do a bomb. In other words, it'd be a massive success.
Yeah.
You would have to think for the 50th anniversary, something will happen. And you're thinking, okay, you can't do a special edition of it, it's done and dusted, right? You can't change it again. People are sick to death of that. But if they were to do a 3D version of A New Hope, or release the version if they've done it, or really, really jazz it up, I tend to think that could be a massive success. Even the Vial has said, like the 3D speeder chase for Jedi, if that was 3D'd as well, it would be mind-blowing. And Gavin agrees with all that. So I tend to think that that if the bean counters are thinking, how do you make more money out of a product that was 50 years ago that got released already back in 97, that could be the solution. So what's this space?
The hold up to that would have been Fox, but now Fox is owned by Disney. It's all the same company, so they can absolutely do that. And I think everyone's right. They should do something, and it would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there were successful movies, and people would just be very curious to see how things look. So, yeah, very, very cool. And that's right. You're right, Rusky Babies. I mean, yeah, the whole thing in 3D would be spectacular. So, yeah, very, very cool.
Again, here are some of the variants of the comics. You've got the same comics as we just looked at, but they've got the photographic covers. I always think photographs are not as good as artwork because, I don't know, I just think they look cheaper. Someone's just taken a photo. The production photos are great, but if you're doing a comic, I reckon have comic book art. The opposite to that, though, is, of course, the manga version that was released over 2 issues in Japan. And the artwork in that, which has been stylized to that sort of Japanese style of artwork, is absolutely fantastic. And I do love how you have the Phantom Menace looming over the 2 covers. So when you join it together, you've got Palpatine overwatching the whole proceedings of the movie, which I think is quite a nice idea.
I totally agree with you about putting comic art for the covers. Having photos is just ridiculous. This picture here of Anakin, I've never seen that before. That looks like a behind the scenes still. Not like it's not a production. It's not a production thing. They're all anything they've ever marketed anywhere else. They've just taken the happy snap of Jake Lloyd and said, "There we go. We'll use that." But yeah, I agree. What would you use if the comic book is meant to celebrate art? Then put art on the freaking cover. Don't put a photograph on the cover. So yeah, I agree. That's just dumb. So yeah.
And of course, every one of the characters kind of got their own solo comic books. This was one of the things that kind of really led to me stopping collecting comics, because I like collecting comics. I was in the habit of buying the Star Wars ones, but then when the movie came out, and now you've got to collect the Anakin story and the Amidala story and the Qui-Gon story, and you know what? None of them are canon. They're all just made up. So I got them and read them and thought, well, this is all a bit of a money thing. The Darth Maul ones I enjoyed more, and they do have the artwork on them. And it's interesting when you remember stuff that had never happened before. But when I think issue 4 of Darth Maul came out and he had his shirt off, everyone was, oh my gosh, Darth Maul has body tattoos like his face tattoos. You know, now everyone kind of knows that, but little revelations like that you kind of forget were a part of history of when this stuff came out. Now everyone knows that there's been figures and all of that, but back then it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you're right, and it appears in the Clone Wars animated series too. Grant, I just realised what Grant said, and he's on the money regarding about the 3D version of Phantom Menace came out at the wrong time. It came out 10 years too early. It needed to come out today, and because by then the kids who saw it as 10-year-olds, they're now like as adults. They would probably love it. And as we discussed last week, when Phantom Menace turned 10 years old, no one gave a shit about it in 2009. It was just like completely forgotten. In 2019, even at Celebration, they were discussing about the 20th anniversary, and it was very successful. So you are right, Grant. They cocked it up by trying to do the 3D version of Phantom Menace in, was it 2010 or 11? And it should have been like released tomorrow. And it may not necessarily will, but it may have been released a lot more successful than when it first came out. So yeah, good observation there, old son. So yeah, well done.
And as I was saying, the movie launched a whole wave of new comics. So you had Dark Horse launched a new weekly regular Star Wars line along the bottom there. It was called Prelude to Rebellion. I absolutely hated what they did with this, because they said it was a 6-part story that led into the Phantom Menace, that had Kayundi Mundi in it and other important characters that were going to be in the Phantom Menace. No, nothing that they did in it really had anything to do with the Phantom Menace. And they did that cheap shot they do at comic book collectors. They go, at issue 6, when that story arc finished, they go, it's so successful, issue 7 is going. And they just kept going. So if you had started collecting, they wanted you to get them all. They had the adventures of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, which were also a successful range of comics that sort of continued as well. So Dark Horse, who had got the rights and done, when they relaunched Shadows of the Empire, I think it goes back to then, and, you know, the Heir to the Empire and those ones, Dark Horse really bet on the right horse, because at that time, Star Wars was not a popular franchise. And within a couple of years, they'd already bought the rights and got probably the biggest comic book franchise at the time for bargain price.
I like how you said that they bet on the right horse. That would be the Dark Horse, wouldn't it? Gavin has asked about Maul's markings. Are they tattoo skin markings? As I understand it, they're tattoos. So there you go. Very, very groovy. So from the comics, we go to the other C word, cards.
Cards. Now, again, usually with cards, there's a few sets that get released, but, you know, with it, because it was that sort of magical merchandising recipe, they went into overdrive with the cards, because you could get the regular cards, the widescreen cards. Every single food franchise was giving away collectible cards. All the packets of chips had cards in them. International versions of the same products had different cards. So if you were a really full-on collector, you had to have a pen pal overseas who, I want the Australian Lay's chips, I'll swap them for the British Walker chips things. I think you've mentioned before you had a friend or knew a friend that got cereal packets, which is a fantastic thing if you can get someone to do it for you.
He did all food packaging items from all over the world, wasn't just cereal. So yeah.
Yeah, well, before the internet, before the internet was big, if you had a friend like that, was fantastic because it was actually quite hard to get anything from overseas back then. These are the standard sets of episode one. I remember, getting the widescreen ones and thinking it was fantastic because they came out again before the movie was released. One of the issues that I don't know if we brought up last week that isn't really an issue anymore. Sometimes in America, up to that point, movies came out 6 months before here, but the merchandise came out the same time as America as it did in Australia. I nearly flew to America to see episode one because I couldn't wait the 3 months, but luckily they brought it forward. I think they brought it forward about 4 weeks, didn't they? So it wasn't too bad, and I'm really glad I didn't fly over there to see it because that would have been a waste of money. But yeah, so often in Australia, where in America the toys came out a week before the movie was released, in Australia they were around 4 to 6 weeks before the movie was released. And it's interesting I was a retailer at the time and I got them wholesale, and the boxes had these seals on them, and it was not to be put on shelf till the 5th of April, I think it was. And, they would have inspectors going around to see if the seal had been broken and stuff like that, which is just crazy, really.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest because they didn't want to have anybody have the upper edge on anybody else, and of course that doesn't always work. Just quickly with the cards, one of the things I did actually like in terms of merchandising, and of course this happened before Phantom Menace, was the widescreen cards, because obviously the films are in 2:35:1, the aspect ratio, and having widescreen cards just looks spectacular. The only problem, of course, was you couldn't find plastic sleeves that the damn things would fit in. But I always appreciated the fact that they released trading cards like that rather than the old style Topps cards. So yeah, it was very, very groovy. They look spectacular, but that was about as far as I went. But yeah, good on them for doing it.
So as you can see, there were a lot of different cards released and stickers as well. Interesting, stickers always seem to me harder to collect a set than cards. The mix of stickers in a pack of stickers never seems to be as good as like the spread of cards from a set of cards. But you can see there's the episode one sticker book. You can see there's mini lobby cards, which were another collectible set. The top right are a bit hard to see. They're lenticular motion cards, and they were about $5 for just one card, but it was like lenticular and the character moved. Down the bottom there's the Walker's English chip packet cards, and you've got another set of mini lobby cards down the bottom there. So there was plenty to choose from if you were a card collector. And back in the day, there was Card Heaven and Minotaur, and Alternate Worlds had a level that was just of cards. So it was a much bigger deal back then than it is now.
Gavin said he missed out on so many Yoda items from Phantom Menace. The only issue I'd be asking you, Gavin, is that Yoda in the Phantom Menace, the original version, didn't look that good. They redesigned the puppet, and it didn't look as good as the classic version from the original trilogy. So even though it's the same character, would you still have the same appeal with it? That's the only thing I'd be asking you. With the cards, of course, one of the big success stories regarding cards wasn't just trading cards, of course. It happened to be the old customizable card game, the money trap for fans everywhere.
And this is interesting as well, because Decipher had got into the, I guess, franchised customizable card games through Star Trek, which was incredibly popular. And a lot of people who are into Star Wars were like, oh, gee, I wish they did a Star Wars version of this. That'd be fantastic. And then Decipher got the rights and did it. And Decipher basically probably named and created a lot more Star Wars names and places and things than probably comic books and expanded universe. They went into the Lucasfilm archives, and if the things didn't have a name, Decipher put forward what they thought it would be, and generally it was a tick. So they made up all the names for a lot of different things and a lot of different characters. For better or for worse, all the background characters Decipher came up with. They had... Did you want to add something?
Oh, you finish.
They had done the same thing as Dark Horse, where they had jumped on the Star Wars bandwagon, and then episode one came along. And so they already had the rights to Star Wars when, I guess, the property went through the roof value-wise. Where Dark Horse weathered it out, I think Decipher were kind of shafted, where someone offered more for the license. So we had like this amazing Decipher collection of collectible card games, and then all of a sudden they changed. And I think it really hurt the people who'd collected for years and years with Decipher, and then it really hurt the people who got the new franchise because no one really wanted to start from scratch and build like a game up again. And for years and years, Decipher continued to run local tournaments and championships of the game, which I think was pretty good of them considering they didn't have the rights for the actual franchise anymore.
Yeah, they actually ran one of the championships in one of our Skyforce meetings back in '96, I think it was. Mark, I'll just put this one. I haven't seen Mark before, so good to see Mark joining the show. He's still waiting for Star Wars Holiday Special cards. Chances are some fans have already created. There would be official ones, but there might be fan-created cards, which probably look just as good as the real thing. And regarding the CCG, this one I did hear a lot of. Moneybag Sullivan said he spent so much money on this. A lot of people did trying to get the elusive cards so they could play the game. It was a magnificently great money spinner for Lucasfilm and Decipher and all the rest of it. And I can't even begin to think the thousands upon thousands of dollars that was spent on CCG card games. And ironically, just quickly as an aside, I myself personally have only ever played one CCG card game in my life, which was a Star Wars one. I won that match and I've never been beaten. So as far as I'm concerned, I have 100% success rate. I'm undefeated in CCG card game playing. How good is that? Try and top that one, kids. So there you go.
Well, there are still collectors collected. I think Josh, who was here earlier commenting, his daughter Emily comes in sometimes and picks up some of the cards. So
yes,
still an appealing collectible, and she's a lot smarter than me because I was one of the people who spent thousands and thousands on buying box loads of these cards, where now they're not worth that much anymore. Surprisingly, some of the cards have held their value, but they're nowhere near as popular as they used to be.
No, you're absolutely correct. And you are right. Yeah, a lot of names for a lot of things came from these card games. So, yeah, very good.
So we're moving across to books now. And we did look at books a little bit last week, and we talked about how this doesn't usually happen so much with books, but they even decided with books to do multiple covers because they thought Star Wars fans would buy 4 covers of the hardbacks, which usually meant that Darth Maul and Amidala were gone and there was tons and piles of Anakin and a few Obi-Wans left all over the place. The interesting thing with this is some of the other books, like The Art of Star Wars, even decided to do alternate covers. So you would get Star Wars scrapbooks, which were the same thing with different covers. They just rejacketed it and sent it back out to the shops again, which I did think was a bit of a cheat, really.
Yeah, as we mentioned, you're right. We mentioned it last week about how the novel had 4 covers, and Gavin has said he has all 4 of them. So, in other words, instead of buying 1 book, he's had to buy 4 books. So that's how you multiply your income takings from a single product 4 times. So I thought it was an absolute scurvy thing to do from a marketing point of view, but it worked. And as Gavin said, he's got them all. So there you go.
I thought it was a good read too. I thought that
it wasn't too bad actually. Yeah. Here are some of the different books from different areas of the world. You've got the Japanese version of one of the sort of extended novels that gives the background stuff. Now, the thing that I think annoyed Star Wars fans and was one of the downfalls was they aimed a lot of the Phantom Menace merchandise at really young kids. Now, if you had a kid of your own and you were a Star Wars fan, you'd probably be happy buying all of these books. But for me as an adult collector, I had really no appeal. There was no appeal to me going to bookshops and dropping like $400 or $500 on Anakin Skywalker's journal, the story of like the pod race and all these other things that as a compulsive collector, I felt obliged to get. And it really is one of those things where if you can afford and you can get everything, you feel rewarded and you keep collecting. If it becomes annoying because there is so much and you miss stuff, you are less likely to be a completist anymore. So I actually think it damaged the franchise by them dumping so much merchandise on us that first year. It's an interesting one because Gavin has said the journals were good for kids. Phantom Menace is actually quite interesting because it does cater for just about everybody. If you like your Jedis, you got your Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. If you like your bad guys, you got your Maul and Palpatine. If you're a kid looking for a kid, you got young Anakin, and of course, if you like girls, you got Padme and Amidala and all the rest of it. So it's almost like they've got all these bases covered. What could possibly go wrong? And of course, if you like your crazy, wacky aliens, well, you can't go past this. You can't go past this either, can you? You even got that.
This was the other thing that I think put a lot of a more adult Star Wars
Yeah.
fan side, Jar Jar Binks. Now, Jar Jar Binks was probably the first example of a Star Wars character being made directly aimed at children. Before Star Wars came out, Lucasfilm said, well, Jar Jar Binks is like the new Chewbacca. He's the wacky alien that everyone's going to love. He's a little bit more clumsy than Chewbacca. And when you came out and you saw it, you're really like, what was that I just watched? What was the speech? Now, I remember, I don't know if you would have picked this up. He said stuff like, "Squeeze me," and things like that. Now, that wasn't made up by George Lucas. That was, and he says, "How rude." And this was all stuff that was off Full House at the time. The little girls on Full House used to use Jar Jar language before Jar Jar was invented. So I did think that really undermined the character for me, because it was meant to sound alien and exotic, and it just reminded me of like kiddie baby talk kind of thing, which kind of makes sense because George Lucas's children at the time were very young kids, and he got a lot of the names and the talk for them off of his kids. I remember one interview where he says Gungans was what his son called earth movers. So when they drove by earth movers, his son would go, "Oh, Gungan, Gungan." And that's where he got the name from. And he's done that before, like Wookiees and things like that. But in this case, maybe it wasn't the right inspiration or the right track to be going down.
Yeah, it's probably working on a subconscious level thinking. If a child is thinking this, then chances are there's 100 million children thinking the same way. Produce something that caters directly for them, it's bound to be a winner, right? And maybe it is. But unfortunately, you're not making a kids movie. You're making a film for adults based on a pre-existing franchise. And
Yes.
as it was funny enough, it was discussed in the Phantom Menace that if the previous movies never existed, in Episode 1, Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars movie that ever came out, would it have worked? Right? And there's a chance it would have just failed from the outset. It's only because it had the shoulders of the others to stand on that made it succeed, or at least get an audience. So you got to cater for that. If you go too far the wrong direction, you are going to alienate your core audience who've been waiting for this thing for a couple of decades. So it was a massive risk, and clearly it didn't pay off. And as we know from Attack of the Clones, Jar Jar's involvement was practically minimal. And of course, in the end, he became the one who set the whole galaxy on the path that it went down, giving Palpatine emergency powers. So it is an interesting sort of way of looking at it. And I'm sure there's been a lot of people discuss the psychological impacts of what occurred with Jar Jar Binks being a major character in the story. Even though when George Lucas explained it, said he's supposed to be just the dude who doesn't fit in. He's just the outsider who just finds himself in this amazing situation. But, that's all well and good. But anyway, we already know what happens with that. So, yes, didn't work for everybody, unfortunately. So, yes.
No. So
hang on. The Violet said, would Jar Jar be accepted if he spoke another way, like being successful, interesting, chewy? Well, that's if you've seen, and I haven't seen it, the Phantom edit. There's a professional editor who got hold of the Phantom Menace, recut it up and changed a whole lot of things. And one of the things that he did with Jar Jar was, one, omit all of his silly antics from the edit, and two, change his voice to make it sound more alien. Now, I haven't seen this, and apparently it works. It actually makes him more of a serious character. And you're right. In hindsight, maybe that would be the way to go. But unfortunately, that's not what we got at the time. So
the way I like to look at it, I don't know if everyone has seen the John Carter movie, John Carter of Mars. And there's a race of aliens in that called the Tharks that are like these insectoids with 6 hands. They're sort of like savages kind of thing. Yep. I always imagine if they had been in Episode 1 instead of the Gungans, it would have been a much better movie. They would have been just as alien, and it would have been just as different, but it would have been a lot more serious.
See, I don't agree with that, because the Gungans, I'll call them Gungans, in Phantom Menace were fantastic. The only issues were Boss Nass and Jar Jar, right? You make Boss Nass a bit more serious and not doing all the stupid stuff he was doing. You obviously fix Jar Jar. You do whatever you have to do with him. But the rest of them were pretty good. I mean, even Captain Tarpals, for the most part, was pretty good. But the rest of the guys were quite serious. They were warriors and all the rest of it. They all looked identical to each other, with the exception of Jar Jar. But, take out 2 characters who were problematic, the rest would have been fine.
I'll tell you what, if Jar Jar took them to the city and then Captain Tarpal said, okay, I'll take you through the planet core, and he went on the adventure, it'd be a much better movie too.
Yeah, true. Bypass the Boss Nass shit altogether. So, exactly right. Yeah. Anyway.
Magazines. Now, again, I've put a representation of magazines there. I could not even do a catalogue of magazines. There were so many magazines with Phantom Menace covers. It was like every single magazine would choose an angle so they could have Star Wars on the cover. I think they truly believed that the circulation would go up. And of course it would go up because a lot of the magazines, Empire, even PlayStation magazine, they had 4 covers. It was this thing of 4s for Star Wars merchandise. It was almost like, I think fans will probably buy 4 of these. You know, they're $5 each, $20. All of them were like limited edition. They weren't limited edition. There was a ton of all of this stuff. So magazines, when the Phantom Menace was coming out and during that first couple of months, you could go to the newsstand and you could be mistaken by thinking that you were in Minotaur because there was so much science fiction Star Wars magazines.
Yeah, Star Wars was selling everything at the time, and everybody thought, mate, even if you had like a specific article that was really, really important as far as the world was concerned, stuff that, put Star Wars on the cover, that's what's selling. So, yes,
Yeah.
totally agree there.
It was crazy. It was a sad, sad time to be a Star Trek fan.
That's exactly what I said last week. You're taking my joke. I love it.
I must have sent this to you out of order, but this was another set of cards. And like we were talking about, there was the widescreen, and then they released the widescreen 3D lenticular cards, which were the next level up. And there's also some of the advertising cards from Pepsi there from different places in the world. So you've got the American Pepsi set, an Asian Pepsi set, and then I think the Australian KFC set of cards there as well. So that's going back to the cards. There were a lot of cards for card collectors to do with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think you may have put this one here because you're referring to the Pepsi thing.
Possibly. Yes. Well, this is the other thing we touched on last week, but we're going to have a close look this week, and that is how every single or PepsiCo franchise shop jumped on Star Wars to the point where I've never seen this done before, where each one had the same toys, but different toys from each place. So you actually had to go to KFC, Pizza Hut, in America, Taco Bell, to get the whole set of toys. Now, usually, if you went to KFC, you'd get the set of toys and that was it. But you would have to actually go to all of them. And there is the boxes. Now, if you look at the top right there, there's a couple of boxes that have the characters on. Now, the boxing and packaging was the same in each one. And if you wanted to get all of those boxes and it made up a great big diorama, you had to get 36 packets of takeaway from various stores all over the place. And I think this started before the movie came out. So it gave fans an indication of how flooded the actual market was going to be.
It's interesting. You're talking about the boxes in the top right-hand corner. I mean, it's kind of interesting because Jar Jar looks weird without his ears, right? So that's just his head, just without the ears. And the fact you got Sebulba as well, which I thought you didn't see marketed very often. But going by what you said, I can't imagine anybody going to all the trouble to get all of these damn things only to find X many years later they're utterly worthless. So
well, if you look at the cups, which are cups that have like a different character on top, they have all the main characters, but then you've got Rune Hokow and you've got Boss Nass and all these, and Captain Tarples, all these sort of secondary characters. Usually when a movie like that comes out, you might get the 6 main ones. These had like 36 characters, so they were really reaching for, you know, the last couple of characters to fill out all the different cups kind of thing.
Yeah, that's when they're doing it purely because they want the collectors to buy more, not because they think they need them. So, yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm with you.
So it is interesting because I did get a lot of the toys and I kept them sealed and I put them away. And I never thought they were really that amazing. What I did like, though, was some of the artwork. And if you look at the pizza boxes down the bottom there, I actually like the stylized artwork from the pizza boxes more than some of the toys, and they're a lot harder to get. And even with the pizza, you can see the one on the bottom right, you had to collect 4 pizza boxes to join them together to make the Pepsi logo, which is just crazy. It just shows you the level of merchandising that this movie had.
Yeah, I like the pizza boxes, actually. And I'm sort of torn because you think off the top of your head, the Darth Maul is clearly going to be the most popular one. But the most valuable one could potentially be the Anakin one because nobody would want it. But it looks crap anyway. But just because that would have been the one that most people chucked out. But I do like the idea of the pizza boxes. I've got to admit that does appeal to me. But having to buy different ones to make up the backs, Yeah, that's not a good thing at all. So instead of just getting 3, you may have to get like 12 to make up all the backs with the 3 different fronts. Oh my God, not good.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Totally agree with you. Does anyone notice that the big sci-fi franchise, Doctor Who, Star Trek, do better when 2 competitors are going through a bad patch? Yes, it's a good point. Speaking of, well, it's not a bad patch, bad batch. It's getting into games.
So this is one of the things that we're sort of just getting over into the toys and that, but we will have to wind up soon because we're running out. But the last couple of things we're going to look at, Nintendo 64 launched their new system a couple of years before the Phantom Menace, or just a year before, Shadows of the Empire as one of the main games. It might have been a couple of years before, actually. But then the Phantom Menace came out and they released multiple games on the system. And Star Wars Racer was actually a really good racing game. Probably, if it wasn't Star Wars, it would have actually probably been more well received as a game than having Anakin and the Star Wars characters in it. But it is a game that is so well loved that they have made arcade machines of it and they've reissued it and it's been released on different systems. So it is one of those things where you give the franchise to someone who probably looks at how is the best way to use it. And they've taken one element and done, people love racing games and this has fast races in, and they have a new cutting edge mechanic for floating races so you actually feel like you're flying it. It is a good game. I don't know, did you ever play this, Dags?
No, I didn't. What I find interesting is it says it's Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. It doesn't say the Phantom Menace. I'm curious to see as to wonder what the logic behind that one was. But yeah, notice that the Phantom Menace just doesn't get referenced at all. So
it's in a lot of the merchandising. They didn't use the Phantom Menace, almost like they realized it's too much of a mouthful. Episode 1, the beginning, you know.
Yeah, I know they did that for when stuff before the movie came out, but after the film had come out, by this point, I'm assuming the film had this came out after the film. They still haven't used the Phantom Menace text, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Just an observation. So, yeah.
And the other big game they released, which was one of the last games on the 64, was Battle for Naboo, which I actually remember being a bit of a step down from the other games, to the point where you've got the Naboo fighters on the cover there, and I remember playing endlessly in the Flash Speeder, driving around the cities and shooting battle droids to the point where it was like, I can't be bothered clearing this and going any further. So you have either ends of the popularity with gamers, where you've got the fast-paced, enjoyable pod race game, and then you've got, like, at the end of the franchise, the Battle for Naboo, which was sort of one of the last games on the console that didn't get ported across to the new consoles when they made the GameCube was what finished this. So that's where we've got to with the Phantom Menace. I have one thing to show everyone though, and I'm wearing it. I was just
going to say, if you can find a hack for it, you can recolor that ship and turn it into Din Djarin's what do you call it? Ship from the Book of Boba Fett. Anyway, sorry.
No problem. So last week we were talking about the merchandising and the KFC here, and I mentioned that one of my friends worked at KFC and gave me one of the shirts, and this is the shirt, which is the Queen Amidala one. And all of the KFC shirts had question marks on because when they released them, no one knew who any of the characters were. It's kind of got a cool back with all the episode 1.
Hang on. Do that again. Yeah, there you go. Very good. Yep.
So I that's one of the T-shirts, which are actually quite hard to find. But what I'm just saying now is surely this means Natalie Portman has been announced as the next Doctor Who.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, you had to put a Doctor Who gag in there somewhere, didn't you?
Right at the end. Right at the end. So, yes,
very, very good.
Question mark actually sort of was significant because no one knew who any of the characters were. That's how early they merchandised the movie.
You're right. It's making me dizzy too. He's standing up, he's standing down, he's moving here, he's moving there. I know it's just driving me completely nuts as well. Gavin, was there a Yoda T-shirt? I don't think so because they were just dealing with the original characters.
They didn't have a Yoda T-shirt, but they did have the life-size Yoda giveaway. Not giveaways. They auctioned them off. Jar Jar and Darth Maul were the easiest ones to get, but they did do a life-size Yoda at KFC, which was a harder one to find.
And as I mentioned last week, and I did confirm it in the Phantom Menace when I was watching it today, people were saying that they were going into Kentucky Fried Chicken, offering staff members wearing that shirt $500 to buy. Who'd pay $500 for that? So,
I'm just
question
saying,
mark or not?
I'm just saying this was brand new. I've worn it once. I'll sell it for $200, and it comes with my DNA.
Very good. See, there you go. I'll buy that for $1. Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, look, that actually brings us to the end of the discussion for this evening. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
It does. Now, we haven't even opened the toy shop doors yet because that will take an entire episode to look at what was released or unleashed, I guess, onto the public through Toys R Us and toy shops. There is a lot of Phantom Menace toys. Now, we've done 2 weeks of Star Wars Phantom Menace. We might have a breather next week and do something else, but we will come back to it and we will be getting, they're not KFC stains. They are genuine sweat stains. Oh, look, my shadow makes it look really bad, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so next week, if you've had it with Jar Jar and Phantom Menace, we will be doing something different next week and come back to the last part of the Phantom Menace merchandise in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, because the reason why we have to do that is it gives us time to literally dig these things up out of the ground because they've all, as in the toys, because they've all ended up in landfill because people just said, mate, this stuff is absolute tripe. And let's get environmentally friendly, and it's all been buried off into some kind of Mexican city somewhere out in the outback. So
yeah,
it's never going to be seen ever again except on this show in a couple of weeks' time, as Aaron has said. So there you go. Very, very cool. Any final words before we sign off for the night, Mr. Aaron?
Thanks for everyone who stayed with us tonight. It's interesting looking back at Phantom Menace. It's not the most well-regarded movie, but it is a very interesting time in fandom and collectibles. So I hope you've all enjoyed it.
Very good. And if you do actually have Phantom Menace merchandise in your collection, you can think in the entire time you've been watching this episode, it has not appreciated 1 cent. If anything, the value's gone down. So there you go. Very, very cool. Don't leave those collectibles mint in box. Rip them off, throw them out the window, and give yourself some your shelf space for some Star Trek figures. So there you go. All right, guys, we'll leave you to it. You party hard and rock on. Okay, then. Bye for now.
Have a good night, guys. See you.